Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We're going to show mad love to the rhythm section today. We got Matt Bissonette on with us. Matt's a great guy. He was on the show last year. One of my favorite episodes. In fact, I'm going to put the original episode, in case you missed it, behind both the audio and the video today. It's worth checking out. This guy, everybody knows Matt as being a great bass player, but I got to tell you, man, he's got the voice of an angel. No bullshit. His voice is incredible. He's got a new record out. All-star cast of characters and just some good stuff going on here. So let's get into this. Thanks for coming on the show again, Matt.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely, man. And at the end of the show, he's going to take off his shirt. So stay tuned. What a cliffhanger that is. If you're just one thing, make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe to subscribe to the show. If you're watching us on YouTube already, hit the little icon with the subscribe icon with the bell. I appreciate that. That gives us some props with YouTube. Anyway, Matt, triple threat, in the off chance you're not familiar with Matt, triple threat bass player, vocalist, and songwriter, and through hard work and hustle, man, he's had a career most sidemen dream about. He's toured with Gino Vanelli, Sheena Easton, Aha, Christopher Cross, a Captain and Tennille. In 1988, Matt and his brother drummer Greg, joined David Lee Roth's band. They spent 2 years touring the world to promote the Skyscraper record. After that, Matt relocated to Canada with David Lee Roth, his brother Greg, Jason Becker, and Steve Hunter to record David Lee Roth's next record called A Little Ain't Enough. And after that world tour, Matt and Greg left to join Joe Satriani's band, and they made and toured 5 albums with Joe. Matt's also played with Rick Springfield, Jeff Lynne and ELO, Ringo Starr, Brian Wilson, Don Henley, Julian Lennon, Steve Perry, Ty Tabor, who's a huge fan, a lot of listeners of this show love Ty, and Peter Frampton. Matt just put out an incredible record with an all-star cast in a project called the Redcoats, and we'll talk about that today. Dude, this is true, man. This is like a career most sidemen only dream about.
Greg, thanks for having me on your show again. It seems like it was just yesterday, but that was actually a lot has happened.
That was actually yesterday when we started this call.
But a crazy thing happened on the way to the store. But yeah, it's been an interesting, as everybody, I'm sure you're hearing the same story from everybody. The Redcoat band that we're talking about is probably about 1.5 years in the making. It was all before this crazy stuff started happening with COVID and everything, but we finished it all remotely, everybody doing their parts online and everything. It turned into a big labor of love for us, and got some great players, and just thankful to, at least as much as crazy as everybody's going with this whole thing, it feels good to at least pump out some music. And I would never say, like, I hate when people say, oh, this has actually been really good for me. I've been working more now than ever. It's just like, I want to strangle them. It's like going, this is like the worst thing that could happen to everybody at the same time. But I feel at least good that we've been writing a lot and doing a lot of different things and practicing. I've been sitting in my room the last 2 weeks practicing scales and relearning modes, which is something that I missed the boat on completely in college. And it's just been really great in practicing scales on piano and just trying to learn music. So for that part, it's good. So, but basically the Redcoats was just I was always thinking about writing some stuff with my brother that we could just kind of play different kind of music, because we grew up listening to everything. Like I said in the last interview, you turn on the radio when we were growing up in the 70s, and you heard everything on the spectrum. On AM radio, you'd hear weather report to, Chicago to, anything. And so because we love music so much, and, one of our things is we just love different styles, and we figured we'd throw all these styles into one big bag and shake it around and see if we like it and see if anybody else likes it. So basically, I was just thinking about it on the road with Elton. We were on a day off, and I just started messing around with some grooves and stuff, and everybody's got their laptop on the road. And I kind of had this idea of a song. So we were in Dallas last year, and I had 2 days off, and my good friend Billy White, who's a great guitar player who you should have on the show. He's a really good
I know guy. Billy White. I know who he is.
Great guy.
That's so funny.
Yeah, we all went to college in North Texas together back in, I was like 79 through 81. And Billy said, hey man, if you're off on a day off, we can go hear this guitar player, Andy Timmons, playing at a club by the hotel. And then my friend Mike Medina, who turned out to be the co-producer of the Redcoats and the percussionist and multi-instrumentalist guy, came with us, and we all kind of went down there and sat in this little club, and my friend John Adams was playing bass, and just got to go back to like going back to college again, seeing all these guys I hadn't seen in so long. But I remember watching Andy play, and I was like, I just couldn't take my eyes off him, you know, just looking at him going, wow, this guy's so cool, man. He's just like, he's really good. So it kind of put a bug in my ear to go, I'm going to write a song or something and just see if anything ever comes of it, you know, just for fun. And then one song turned into 8 songs, and then it turned into this band, and then now we're trying to conquer the world. So
as it should be.
Yeah, as it should be. But yeah, it's just really been an interesting experience because we did everything. We recorded a couple of the drum tracks at my house in the studio that I had before we moved, and we moved into a new house that we haven't got a studio yet. So we're doing most of the drum tracks at Frank Rosado's studio in Sherman Oaks. Here in California. So we just started with just bass and drums. I mean, I've kind of come up with an idea for a song and just really trying to blend each style into a thing. Like for the first song on the Redcoats album, is called Redcoat. And basically what it is, it's kind of like that. Did you ever hear the Chicago Transit Authority album? The first song they had, Introduction?
Yeah.
First song, and it kind of like showed the whole band what they did in, you know, series of different sections of the song. So with this song, we started out with a really fast bebop thing, upright and swing drums, and over really melodic fast lines. It goes into a funk groove, and then it goes into a Latin groove and a heavy groove, and back. It just kind of goes through this kind of an introduction to all the guys. It starts with Wally Minko, the keyboard player, who is a friend of ours from California, great guy, and a monster keyboard player. And I was always talking to him about, we got to do something sometime, because I'd always do sessions for him, and great orchestrator and just a really great guy. And it just, he was the first guy that popped in my mind about doing this stuff. So we just kind of laid down a couple drum tracks, and then I would send it to Wally, and then he would come up with his keyboard part. I'd kind of give him a demo of, you know, what I could do to say, you know, but this whole thing for me taught me the lesson of, just let go of it once it leaves your hands, you know, because everything I've done in my life with writing, I've kind of held it really tight, you know, and just like kind of a control freak. I'm realizing the older I get, I'm kind of a control freak. And my wife would tell you, you're not kind of a control freak, you are. So I've been trying to learn lately just to let people do their thing. I remember Greg and I did an album called Submarine years ago. Yeah. I think I told you the story that we were at the studio and he wanted to kill me because I was producing the songs on the record, and he wanted me to go in there and tell the guitar players what to play on the song. I would be in there kind of explaining the song and the rhythm parts, but then when they do their solos, I just bail and just say, you don't call Steve Vai or Joe Satriani or Robin Ford or any of these great guitar players and then look over their shoulders and go, yeah, you know, maybe this note, you should do this. You pay people to do their thing, you know? So this was a real exercise of just going, here's what my bass part and the drum part is, sending it off to these guys. And every time I get a track back from these guys, it'd be like, I would have never done that. You know, it takes you a little while to go, I got to get used to that, you know, but it was always 100% of the time way better than anything I could ever tell somebody what to do. So it kind of really taught me a lot about just music, you know. It's like, it's like this whole COVID thing. Everybody's really thinking that I remember years ago, I think I might have told you this years ago too. I always had this weird feeling that something was going to happen to just wipe out the music business. You know, I mean, you know, you talk about the word essential. Is your business essential? You know, whatever that means, you know. Right. And then you realize through this whole thing how essential music really is, or maybe it's not at all, you know, because nobody's working, nobody can do gigs. It makes you kind of humbly go, wow, what is the music business? So all that to say, when I started sending out all these parts, it was really kind of a necessity of just, let's do something with this time to make something good out of this time. Kind of losing my train of thought here. But it was really awesome to hear the parts back and to realize that since when you go on the road and you play songs for people and you see the feedback, like at an Elton show or something, when we're rehearsing or when we're playing, you know, for a sound check or something, you play kind of your thing and you get your sounds. But then when the show starts, you play twice as hard because you're getting that feedback, you know, and you're just like, you know, you know, I love playing in front of people and the feedback thing coming back from people. That's something that is really missed right now, and people are just dying to get out and play, and people are just afraid to go out and hear music and do stuff, and you kind of wonder, is this thing ever going to snap back into place or not, you know? So I was just kind of thinking, I'm going to pretend it's never going to snap back into place and just do as much as I can while this time is happening. So I'm really interested to go on the road with this band and to play this stuff for people and see what people think of it, you know, because it really is, there's something for everybody, and there's also nothing for everybody. You know, it's kind of like you either like it or you're not, you know?
Yeah. A couple of things. One, I just want to, I think I didn't mention, you've been, for people listening, Matt's been out with Elton John. He's been Elton John's bass player for like, what, 13 years? Something like that?
8 years. 8 years.
8 years. Okay. So I apologize for not mentioning that. It's interesting that you learned that as far as letting go. I guess other records you've made, has it been less, you know, more tightly controlled, or how come you didn't do that in the past?
I don't know.
Ready?
I first started writing in college, and I remember my friend Paul Ventimiglia gave me his 8-track to sit in his room, and he just said, "Go nuts, do your thing." And I remember doubling my voice for the first time, going, "That's what the Beatles do," you know, kind of learning your thing, you know. And I just kind of stumbled into writing, so you just get more and more into doing it, and you get into patterns of the way you do things, you know. And when I got into out of college and into writing like big band stuff like that, when you hear a big band chart that you write played by the band, you just go, you know, or an orchestra piece, you just go, wow, there's other people playing your music, and it's just so great. When I would start writing songs for I had a publishing deal with Island in 1987, something like that, and just writing songs with other people. And I remember one of the biggest problems I had was that I would fall in love with a song title. You know, they'd put me together with some band. I remember they put me together to write with the Nelson Brothers, you know,
okay,
which were the nicest guys on the planet. And I remember kind of storming in going, we gotta write. No, there's this one band called Femme Fatale, and they had a record deal, and they matched us together. And I had this idea of the song called The Sun in the Shadows. The Sun in the Shadows, that's a really cool title. I forced that title down that band's throat until they just finally said, enough of that song. Let's just write a song. You know, sometimes I get fixated on certain things, and I learn, and that's part of the control thing, where when you're writing with other people, you just gotta just go, what do you have? What do I got? And let's just, you know, write something.
Yeah.
So I mostly have written by myself, which, you know, Lennon had McCartney, and then if something stunk, they'd say, that's stupid, let's not do that. You know, they had each other to bounce off things. I kind of tried to do it myself. And then when the Mustard Seeds were writing together, it was kind of like, started out where I was writing everything, and then everybody started writing everything, and it made it easier because everybody could contribute and do their thing. But I think I've just done it for so long that this made me realize that I just need to, in everything that I do, just kind of, even in relationships, you know, you can't dictate the way somebody's going to answer what you say to them or your conversation. And that's the problem with the world right now. When we talked about this before, the movie Social Dilemma, it's social media has made this no center anymore of anything. It's either you're left, you're right. You can't even have, I mean, face it, for this election coming up, everybody's made up their mind before, you know, the next 3 weeks isn't going to matter. It's divided us so much that if you don't agree with that person, there's no common ground. So there's so many things like that that are applicable in my life that I see with the writing thing. It's just, you know, when you're writing songs with people, it's like having dinner. You're having a conversation, and you're letting people bring in their ideas, you know. And being control freak, I always thought that I had the best ideas, and I don't. And that's humbling and all that stuff, but it's what I needed to have happen. So here I am, 59 years old, and I'm starting over from scratch.
Wow, man, thank you. That is so cool that you shared that and that you discovered that. And that's really awesome, man. And I'm also happy you're 3 years older than me, because very few people are older than me on this show, Matt. So
you say that every time.
I don't get to say it to anybody else.
Okay. I'll take it. Just pile on.
Yeah, and anybody who Matt mentioned the Mustard Seeds, man, that is an incredible band. You guys put out 3 or 4 records.
3 records, yeah.
They're incredible, man. If you haven't checked out the Mustard Seeds, it's Matt, Doug Bossy, George Bernhardt. All these guys have been on this show, and I think your brother was the drummer, right?
He was the original drummer, and about a year in, he goes, "Man, this band stuff's hard, man. I got to make money doing sessions. I got to get out of here." Later, but yeah. So then George Palacios came in, and he played for the next 10, 12 years, whatever we did. Even though we did only 3 albums, we probably did well over 200 songs that were demoed and stuff. We were machines, man. We had this rehearsal studio downtown LA. We would just pump out songs every day. I mean, our business chops weren't so great, and we didn't apply it to, like, being super successful, but we all wrote our butts off for several years and, worked our muscles and flexed our muscles for trying to learn how to write. And it was good for learning how to write with other guys too, coming from completely different angles. But yeah.
How did that work out though? Okay, you collaborated, so it wasn't your writing. Everything was collaborative.
Well, Greg and I kind of put the band, the Mustard Seeds, together in the beginning. We sent out, like a fly, however we got George and Doug. I knew George from writing at Island. They put George and I together because he had a band called Bo Nasty.
Right.
Then the record company asked me to write songs with them. So that's how I met George. And I remember years later, after doing Roth's band, I remember putting the band together. I remember George because he was just a great guitar player and a great guy. And then Doug, you just put out the vibe someplace, and Doug heard about it. And I remember we were in Austin, and we saw another guitar player named Billy White who lives in Austin. And we asked him, "Hey man, would you want to do this band?" He goes, "No, but I know this guitar player, Doug Bossy." So that's how we met Doug.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then it kind of started where I was writing everything in the beginning, and just to get the thing going. And then we started doing gigs, and I quickly realized that we all need to get a band sound and everybody do their thing. So it turned out in the end everybody was writing pretty equally.
Yeah, just so you know, whenever any of the Mustard Seeds guys, including yourself, the shows, I get a ton of email. Man, I wish the Mustard Seeds would come back together. So you guys there's a lot of Mustard Seeds fans out, as deservedly so, man.
Thanks, man. Good to hear.
But I think that's so cool that with so much experience that you were able to learn something, man. Thank you. That was very cool to share that. Really nice. All right, I'm going to just kind of put you on the spot. I mentioned what a great voice you have. You're probably as good a singer as you are a bass player. Is that something you've worked on over the years, or is this natural? Or?
Well, I mean, everybody when they start in high school and before high school, you kind of get in a rock band where you're kind of singing background and you're singing like this far from the mic because you're just insecure and freaking out. And I remember kind of singing like top 40 bands and in college. And when I first moved to California, it was in some top 40 bands. I replaced Jason Sheff, who got the lead gig with Chicago.
Yeah.
His place in a band called Donna and the Kids, a really great top 40 band. When I was playing like 7 nights a week and then 5 days a week at Disney, I was learning to sing and play a lot. That was kind of a good couple of years to kind of work on that. But I never ever, because at that time it was 1985, 90, all the singers were, I mean, if you notice now, singing has changed so much, just the range of singers. Like in that time, you got Steve Perry, you got Styx, you got these bands, Kansas, you got the Beatles, you got these bands that are singing so high.
The Police, yeah.
Brian Adams, you don't realize how high Brian Adams is until you try and sing a song of his life and you go, holy moly, that guy's up there. He doesn't sound like it, but he is. And I was never that kind of a singer. There's guys that can muscular, get out there, sing kind of thing. I'm not that kind of a guy. I'm kind of like a John Lennon kind of and my range has gotten higher as I've done it more, but I was pretty insecure about that. So I never really pushed to be like a singer. The Mustard Seeds thing, we were going to get a lead singer, but we ended up not being able to find someone. So we all said, hey, can you sing? Yeah, I can sing. Let's all sing. Like King's X,
Right.
We wanted to be King's X, like everybody does. And so that kind of turned itself. And I remember the first gig we did with the Mustard Seeds, we did a cover gig at this place called Cafe Cordial in California here. And
I've heard of that place. I've heard other guys tell me about that place.
Yeah, it was a great place. And I remember singing "Fields of Gold" from Sting, the first song, and I was so terrified because the whole place was packed with our friends and stuff. And I was shaking because I'm going, okay, now I got to lead. Now I got to front a band. Now I got to talk to the crowd. Now I've got to sing in tune and play, and I got to relate to the crowd. I remember doing gigs with my friend Rick Whitfield, who is a great guitar player, and he talked to the crowd. And I remember just sitting there in my old drinking days, just sitting back there playing bass, going, man, I could never talk to the crowd. There's no way I could do that. And then when I stopped drinking, I was kind of forced to kind of deal with certain things and just go head on to, like, don't be afraid to talk to the crowd. Let's make it a game. So what we did with the Mustard Seeds is we would insult the crowd without them knowing it to make us feel better, and just kind of do things like the Beatles would kind of do, where we're the gang and we're together and we're gonna beat you. So it kind of taught us to kind of just, people want to follow you.
Yes.
They want to, you want to go out there and tell them this is the greatest song in the world. And they go, yeah, it is the greatest song in the world. So you kind of learn that stuff over the years. So over all these years of fronting bands and having to do it by necessity, and because there wasn't anybody else, it kind of made me go, okay, I can do this. And then it just kind of became, I'm getting calls to sing on sessions. My friend Dave Wallerstein has a band called Darwin that I'm singing all the vocals at, with Simon Phillips and these great musicians and stuff. And he hired me pretty much to sing, so that's kind of weird to me because I never considered myself a singer, but it's kind of turned into that. And I could say that I probably make as much money singing as I do playing bass. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's real cool.
And for having the studio at home, I'm doing a lot of vocals, and for any bass player or any guitar player, it's kind of stupid to not do that, to not have that together in your arsenal, because these days, especially for young guys coming up, which most of them do anyway, all the young kids now, they run Pro Tools, they play bass, they play guitar, keyboards, sing. That's kind of the new generation, but it's kind of foolish to not have that in your bag of tricks, because every gig I've been called for the last 30 years, I've had to sing back.
Right.
So, but that's something I've really been working on, and I want to get better at it. And it's just fun. I mean, that's the funnest thing, is to sing your own songs. I mean, for your brain, it's like, pretty great.
Well, dude, your voice is excellent. It was really a treat to.
I appreciate that, man. I'm gonna reach in that screen and kiss you.
We'll wait till after. Hey, man, I want to talk about a couple of my favorite tracks on the record. First one's called Michael Collins. It's just incredible musicianship on that track from everybody involved. And you and Greg really, I mean, the groove was, and it was just so tight. And the vocals, in fact, I said, great vocals, man. You sound like John Lennon on there. What's the backstory to that track, and who is Michael Collins?
Okay, so Michael Collins is the third astronaut that you never hear about that landed on the moon. Everybody knows who was,
Buzz Aldrin and Neil
Armstrong. Right?
Neil Armstrong, yeah.
Everybody knows about those guys because they landed on the moon. They were the guys. They got the press, but most people don't know Michael Collins was the third astronaut.
I never heard that.
On the moon, getting their glory shots. And God bless him for doing that. He was the guy rounding in the ship to pick him up. Just going around the earth, going around the moon, round and round in the dark by himself. And he comes back home and everybody's Neil, Buzz. But he was. It's like we talked before about sports. It's a great second baseman in baseball. Does his job and doesn't get the pat on the back every day because he's just doing his job.
Right.
Michael Collins was doing his job. He brought those guys back. He brought everybody back safely. And I just thought it was kind of interesting to write a song about people that maybe don't get that pat on the back in their life. It's kind of like a working man's song of, just do your job, do it to the best that you can. And it's not because it's because you're supposed to. That's kind of a problem in culture today, is the default is you don't work hard unless your boss is watching.
Yeah, that's a problem. Huge.
It's kind of shifted to, I'm just going to get away with the minimum amount of work that I can. you know, I'm reading this book called Out of the Depths that George Bernhardt gave me about a guy in Indianapolis that they blew up the ship in World War II, and they're talking about guys getting eaten by sharks and all this stuff. Those guys never complained, you know, the greatest generation. They just did their jobs, you know. I kind of want to be like that, where I'm just, you know, I'm a working bass player that will do anything it takes to do a good job for somebody, like we talked about before also. But it's basically a song about bringing attention to the people that do the everyday things that don't get the attention, you know. And it really, what I like about that song is that I love fusion tunes that have like a Scott Henderson kind of heads, you know, where they're playing fast licks over changes and in unison with keyboards, and then the bass playing it on the first verse. So like on the first verse, it kind of starts out with this big double time. It's supposed to be kind of like Teen Town from Weather Report meets the Beatles in a bar and whatever. It's like every song on this record is a little bit of like war, like lowrider, percussion stuff, and really dirty and grungy kind of stuff, and then jazzy stuff, and then pop, you know, a little bit of everything. So when that song, by the time it hits the chorus, we go into this real Beatle-y kind of cellophane flowers, yellow and green, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like.
It kind of goes into that. And I love trying to sound like John Lennon. I have friends of mine that hire me to sing John Lennon sound-alike stuff sometimes.
Oh, geez, it sounded just like the Beatles. It was like, I couldn't believe it.
And we always mean it as the greatest compliment. And, you know, everybody rips the Beatles off, and we feel guilty, and, you know, when we do that. But you steal from the best, you know, and these guys have made all of us, you know, my brother and I, from the very beginning, would just sit around doing Beatles songs when we were 5 years old. So I don't feel guilty about that, but it's really, I like that song, one of the favorite songs on the record, because it kind of shows everybody. And then Andy just plays two really long solos, and he's even going, man, this is so long, you know, but he just plays so great that it's hard to edit him, because it's just like, he's like Ty Tabor in a way, when he kind of comes up with a riff and then he just keeps hitting it and then getting it bigger and bigger. And when I saw him play at that club that night in Dallas, I remember he would do a solo, and he didn't even know the song. They were just jamming, and he would just do this arc up thing, and it would come back down, and it would just be this other arc, and it would come back down. And the way that he would, with his pedals and stuff, he would kind of do this. I was just kind of really watching him. He'd start kind of like with a clean tone, you know, the tone that he has, and then he'd add a little bit more delay and a little bit more until it peaks, and then he's got the delay on, and the notes are overlapping, and they're just going, and it's just this cacophony. How you say the word? Cacophony? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Of just this, you know, this sound, you know. And I remember seeing the Smashing Pumpkins in Vegas one time, and this drummer friend of mine goes, you know what this is? He goes, it's amazing noise. It's like this when they hit top stride. It's just, and like if you'd walk into a club and they'd start with, you'd be like, holy smokes. But it's the arc of the sound that gets people going, you know. And I think Andy's got that down, you know.
Oh,
so
totally.
That's why I like that song that much. And plus, it's about spaceships, and we all love spaceships.
How did you know about this Michael Collins?
I mean, I try and read as much as I can, and I just stumbled into it. I think sometimes you write songs words first, and you have an idea, and sometimes you write the music first, and then find the lyric to it. I think with this one, I wrote the groove first, and then I was just reading about, I think we did a video for Greg's album Morning Row Robinson, where my friend Tam Johnson, who does the Just Give Me the News video, he did a video for a song called Mars. And it's kind of got the same space thing going on that he uses at the end of Just Give Me the News. And it shows old space footage and stuff like that. I don't know, I've always felt, you know, and I probably have seen a ton of movies. So I probably saw that Brad Pitt movie, that Ad Area, whatever that was, and watching that other movie, can't remember the name. I've seen a lot of space movies where they're out in space by themselves, you know, where you can't hear anything. It's like being in a forest where you don't hear anything but your own heartbeat. You know, it's something about being that alone just makes you just go, that's when you really get in touch with, is there a God? Is there not a God? What's my purpose? What's the whole thing? When you're that quiet and you're alone, think about deep things, that's kind of the thing. Michael Collins was going around the moon several days. I can imagine the thoughts that guy had. You know?
What a great man! What a really clever subject to write a song about, man. Yeah,
Plus it rhymed with Schmalins.
What's that?
Plus it rhymed with Schmalins.
With Schmalins, yes, because that's a common word we got to have in there. Yeah, that was what a clever thing, man. That's really good. Was it when you play with Greg? I would imagine it's like playing. I mean, it's got to be seamless between the two of you guys because you've been playing together so long.
It's pretty darn fun. I mean, I have a lot of great friends that are drummers, and we have a you know, certain thing from playing for years with each other. But there's something about playing with your blood brother that you know. First time I ever touched the bass, we played Smoke on the Water downstairs for 6 hours, just for 6 hours. There's something about that. And there's something about that I know him, what he's thinking, and I know sometimes he'll do something and I know what to do when he does it. You know, sometimes the relationships with drums and bass is like when a drummer wants to like do a fill on something and he plays like a triplet fill. Like a lot of drummers are like, when there's triplet feels like that, they go over the whole bar. So it makes the whole band stop what they're doing to kind of give space for that fill. I always call that triplet fill the selfish fill because it's all about me. You know, it's out there, do. Instead of what Greg is the king of putting little boogaloo feels and you know, kind of different kind of things that don't take a lot of space, but when he does his Ringo fills like stuff like that, there's a reason why his fills are so good. They're not check me out kind of licks. They're kind of long. You know, he subscribes to the same thing that Ringo says. It's the song. The song is the song, and as soon as you take away from that by a distracting drum fill, then you shouldn't be in that band anymore. So he gets that, and I kind of get that too. And I've seen him do it for years, that he just plays the right parts, you know. But for this thing, for the Redcoats, we just kind of wanted to blow it all out and not, you know, kind of say, you know, forget everything we've ever learned. Let's just play, you know. So, and he can do that. I mean, I always equate Greg's drum solos to like if you played basketball with Michael Jordan. If you played like 2 hours of basketball and then you're just about to go home and then Michael Jordan shows up and he, you know, gets ready and you got to go against him. That's sometimes how I feel when the Greg goes off on the drum solo, because I'm just like, where are you getting that energy from, you know? So it's just great to have a brother that we have that much in common with, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I'm happy for both of you guys. It is a really cool thing now.
I love him.
We are, doesn't everybody? And then you got another cool tune on there called Just, by the way, these are just my favorites. I love the whole record. Just Give Me the News. That was like really fast paced, kind of like ahead of the beat. And Andy just killed it on there throughout that entire song. Tell me the backstory for that.
I mean, that was another one I didn't have a lyric for till after, but we really loved War, that band War. You know,
oh, yeah.
All that stuff. Did War do Cisco Kid? They did, didn't they?
Sure did, yeah.
So that whole...
Was a friend of mine.
Yeah, a friend of mine. That whole dirty percussion stuff going on. I always love to have a lot of percussion stuff going, just because I think like a shaker and a tambourine moves any song, you know, just the movement of that. And Mike Medina, he's an amazing guy. He was my friend in college. And I remember one time I was practicing upright outside of my, you know, it's 1979. I'm practicing.
Is that like North Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm outside. It's 100 degrees outside. Got my shirt off. I'm trying to pick up girls. I'm playing my upright bass. Cool.
Oh, wait a minute. Look at this.
That guys come up in a pickup truck and they point a shotgun at me. And I kind of went like this. Medina came running. He was in the other room. Mike Medina came running. Oh, Greg just joined us. Look
I know. That. Greg, you're just in time for the life-threatening story here, man.
Let's go. I love life-threatening stories.
Greg wearing his Redcoat uniform.
Come on, you know, Matt writes all the songs, plays bass, tells me what to play and sings and produces it, but I'm doing the heavy lifting by wearing the red coat.
There you go, man. He said he stopped telling everybody what to do. Is that not true?
No, he kind of did, but he's the mastermind. And so I don't ever want my brother to now give me great ideas on drumming and of course my guest vocals too. But no, he's my hero.
There goes my hero.
Yeah, Dave Grohl. There goes my brother. His name is Matt Bissonette.
Thanks for coming on, Greg.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.
I'm going to say nothing and let you two just entertain everybody. This will be a lot more engaging than anything I could say.
My hero. I love my brother so much. He's my musical hero, but he's also my role model hero. He, as you know, is a great man.
He's a good guy, man. He's the best.
Great man, not good. Come on.
He's a great guy. He's the best.
All right. Woo!
I was just telling Craig about when we were in college and I was playing upright, and then Medina was in another room, and those guys came by with a shotgun and they were pretending to shoot me, and then Medina chased them down the road. He goes, nobody messes with my friend Matt. So we kind of bonded then, and so Mike was originally a drummer, and then he started playing bass in Dallas and pretty much took over all the gigs in Dallas on bass and stuff. So we were just talking about Just Give Me the News.
Matt, do you remember Mike? You remember that white Slingerland drum set I had? It was all white. I sent away for it, and I got it in the mail. And I wanted to sell it and get another kit. And Mike bought that kit. We don't know where he sold it to, but he bought that kit.
Really?
Back in Denton, Texas.
Man. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we should all be wearing red coats. I feel totally out of place, man.
I even have a Redcoats baseball cap here. I mean, a modern drummer cap. I can do the red cap thing too.
Sure it is.
How's that? Are you in? This is a drummers network. But I also have a couple other ideas I might pop by through the interview too. So
please do.
Is that Gene Krupa?
Why is your room?
Krupa.
Wait a minute. Why is your room in sepia?
It could be any color you want.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, wow.
I'm kind of a lighting guy. You know,
Yeah.
and the reason it's kind of orangish is because I love to dress up. And one of my favorite holidays is coming up.
Wow. Slipknot.
Oh my God.
Can you talk in that thing?
Does Dolly Parton sleep on her back? Yeah. Okay, 1 second.
Oh my God. So Matt's got a Halloween, like a pumpkin mask. He's like a pumpkin. I mean, Greg's. There you go, man. What's the name of your record? Space?
Warning, Will Robinson.
Oh, what was the other one? Spaceman or something?
I'm just having fun with you guys.
Oh my God.
Come on. You said it was Zoom. I wanted to kind of bring a little bit to the party. My
You
brother
did.
writes all the music. I wanted to, bring something to the party here.
You always bring something to the party. So we were just talking about Just Give Me the News and how we did. Do you remember tracking that song? You probably don't, right?
So anyway, when I was a young child, I used to always love Nestle. No, I sure do remember tracking it. Absolutely.
Did you like it right from the beginning, or did you go, this is kind of a crappy song?
Matt, I'm not just saying this because you're on. So let me just backtrack a little. All my solo albums, Matt goes, so what kind of feels you feel like playing? I'll show him the feels. He'll write the song, produce it, play bass, do everything. I know when my brother has a new song, it's going to be a feel that I love to play because we've jammed together since we were in the womb. No, we weren't in the womb together. I'm 2 years older. But no, we definitely, I know it's going to, I had a blast playing on it because I knew it would be a super cool song.
Okay, what day was it then?
I remember that like it was June 26th, 2019. And Matt was wearing a red shirt because he lives in Anaheim. It was kind of an Anaheim Angels shirt, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. But I remember we got Sharkies for lunch.
You're absolutely right. Man, you got a good memory.
I'm taking my Prevagen, an ingredient found in jellyfish.
I got a good short.
And, I got
We got everything. We got everything going on here today.
Sorry, Greg. We're going off the rails here.
No. It's cool. Please go off the rails. If there's any place you can, it's here, man. Go ahead.
But yeah, for that song, we.
This is like the serious. This is the serious brother, and that's the comical brother.
then Craig was asking me about the lyrics and stuff like that. We just got into Just Give Me the News. I just thought it was a funny title because, you know, I don't know when this is going to come out, but obviously we're in the middle of an election cycle and everybody's lost their mind one way or the other. And I just thought it was funny how we don't ever hear news anymore. We just hear what I think, you know, here's the news and here's what I think this means. And so we have people that have to tell us what.
Yeah, man. That is a bummer.
Like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Don Henley song,
Yeah.
Dirty Laundry.
Dirty Laundry.
And the bubble-headed bleach blonde, she comes on at 5. She's going to tell you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. I mean, it's the same kind of vibe.
Yeah.
The Dirty Laundry.
Are you trying to cut in on the lead vocal chair?
I want to be the second vocalist. I love Andy Timmons. I love Wally Minko. I love Mike Medina. But I love you even more because you're my brother. And I think I should be like right up there with you, vocal-wise.
You're way up there. Everybody always liked you more, a little bit more.
My daughter asked me the other day, Dad, who was like the ladies' man at North Texas State more, you or your brother? I said, I was never the ladies' man. It was my brother, Matt.
The ladies' man.
That was because he started playing naked outside of North Texas State.
That's what did it. And he mooned the principal in high school. Well, he was driving his van, and his friends mooned the principal and the whole local school board, and they were almost not able to graduate. Let's talk about that, Matt.
Let's talk about that.
The dirt comes out in the wash. You guys are something.
Yikes. I told you he was nothing but trouble.
Yeah. How can I ask you any questions about the record now?
Let's get back to the record because it is the Redcoats.
Off the record. Let's get back to the record off the record.
The Redcoats with 2 Ds.
Yeah, what's up with that? How come? Where did that come from?
I have something I'd like to insert right here if it's okay.
Oh, I hope it's not too big.
It's okay. It's just really funny because yesterday, I don't want to be a name dropper, but I was doing an album with Colin Hay from Men at Work, and I was playing him the song Redcoats. And I showed him the album cover, the Redcoats, kind of in that cool Beatley kind of look. And, you know, the Redcoats, you think about the British are coming in the Redcoats. And he told me a story that I told Matt last night. And Matt said I could share it on here. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So Colin grew up in Scotland. And I think when he was around 10 or 12 or something, they moved to Australia. But before they moved, he remembered going to these camps, like the families, you know, in these hard working class areas would have these summer camps called Butlins, B-U-T-L-I-N-S, I guess. Yes. I don't know how to spell it. But I've heard Ringo talk a lot about the Butlins camp. In fact, he was playing at a Butlins camp, family camp with a pool, and the parents would be over here, the kids would be swimming in the pool or going on some rides. He was playing with Rory Storm and the Hurricanes at Butlins when he got the call to join the Beatles. So anyway, Colin said that in Scotland there were Butlins camps. And whenever there was a problem, whenever there was any kind of a scene or anybody needed to you know, like, help, I need some help with somebody that was being a pain or whatever, they would go get the guys in the red blazers called the Redcoats, like the guardian angels. They were the good guys. They would, you know, help the problem, snuff out the problem. So
we're good guys.
We're good guys, man.
Yeah, because I kind of fell in love with the line, the Redcoats are coming. Like if you're playing a club or playing some concert, the Redcoats are coming next Thursday. But then I was going, you know, Redcoats kind of a weird name. You know, weren't they the bad guys kind of thing? You know?
We beat the Redcoats.
What's that?
We beat the Redcoats in the Revolutionary War.
So we beat ourselves. So here we are. Should we rename the band?
I need a drink.
Okay, what I think I know what we need right now, if you don't mind. I don't want to take over. I think we need this right now. Ready?
For those that can't see this, he has a monkey helmet on.
Is Gregg Bissonette in a gorilla face? Oh my God.
Okay.
Greg, I need to have you on here more often. So oh my God, how do we talk about the record? So,
yeah. So anyway, so the funny thing is that of course, like every other goofy band in the world, we get the name, we start doing the stuff, and then we find out there's another band called the Redcoats.
Oh, so that's why you added the D.
We ended the D, but also because I like the name Zed. It has 2 D's, and you know, there's a lot of things.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. Is that where that's from?
I don't know. I just like that. Whatever that guy, the EDM guy, Zed.
Oh, that was from the movie Pulp Fiction. Zed's dead.
The erectile dysfunction guy?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean electronic dance music? I'm so sorry.
Isn't that a Jughead record up there?
What's that?
Isn't that a Jughead record up there?
It is, man. Jughead. This album came out, and then the Archies guys said, no, you can't call it Jughead because of the Archies. But it's Matt and I with Ty Tabor and Derek Sherinian. So we're going to be re-releasing this under a different name. This was 2000.
Watch out.
Right? No, was it 2005? 2005, 2006?
All right.
Holy shit.
2002. Sorry about that.
Hey, these are all
so Redcoats 2D. Come listen to our music now. We hope you like it.
These are all originals, right?
They are.
And you wrote all of these.
We all kind of pitched in, did our thing, did our whole thing. But everybody can.
My brother wrote all these songs, and he's nice enough to give us all publishing. Is the truth?
Well, whatever.
Sorry, but he's very humble.
Whatever keeps a band together, right? Isn't that what Van Halen did? Didn't Van Halen all split the songs?
I don't know, but I've heard rumors about that. I don't really know how that worked.
Wow, you guys should. You know what? You guys should have a show.
We are right now.
I mean, you should have your own show.
Question.
What was the most enjoyable thing about making this record versus being a sideman and usually supporting someone else's?
Greg, I don't know if you feel this way. I don't think you do. I think I feel this way more than you do. Sometimes when I'm up playing with other music, it's kind of like you fall in love with this band, like with ELO. You know, when we got the call for ELO, and then you're actually charting out the songs when you hear them, and you go, I got 2 weeks to learn all these songs. You chart them out, and you go, I can't believe I'm going to be singing, you know, Don't Bring Me Down with Jeff Lynne in a couple of weeks. I'm going to meet this guy. I don't know him. I'm going to meet him pretty soon. I can't believe that. And you do the work, you learn the songs, and you go to rehearsal, then you're hearing Jeff Lynne in your in-ears, and you're going, holy moly, man, that's Jeff Lynne. I grew up listening to this stuff, you know, like with Ringo and with Elton and with all the people we work with. It's like such a high because you're just going, man, this is amazing, you know. But I found that no matter what, eventually, no matter how good the music is and no matter how much of a genius the person you're working for, in my brain, I keep going, I still like writing our own stuff and playing that for people. Even though, you know, you're never going to get to that level of success or anything, there's a bone in my brain that says, I still want to write our own stuff. And I want to.
That's because you're my favorite songwriter, Matt. I don't have that songwriting thing in me. And so I love all kinds of drumming and all kinds of bands. Of course, the most of all is playing with my brother in a band like the Mustard Seeds or Jughead or.
Then why'd you quit?
I quit because I wasn't making any money and I had a mortgage. And I'm like, I can't be in an original band from scratch.
Come on, that's not commitment, Greg. That's not commitment.
I committed for a year. Matt said in a hot tub one night, we had this hot tub in Woodland Hills. We used to solve the problems of the world in there. He said, let's give it a year. If we don't have a record deal and we're not doing something in a year, then that's a good commitment. And I went, yeah. And then a year came up and we had a really great manager, Doc McGee, but he wanted to manage everything, like a percentage of my drum clinics and my drumstick deals. And I went, I can't do this. And so I committed for a year. Right, Matt? Didn't I give it a full year?
And then Doc just got the gig with Kiss, so it was kind of the kiss of death for us.
Yeah. It sounds like it did you a favor, to be honest with you.
So
But the other thing, too,
go ahead.
I remember getting the gig with David Lee Roth, and then Matt and his friend Jeff Trax were in our basement, and I said, Matt, I think I can get you an audition for Rod Stewart, and all you wanted to do is write songs and do your own thing. And you go, and our dad was like super personality. Hey, I think that'd be great for you, Matt, Rod Stewart, and you go, you finally snapped and you went, I don't want to play with Rod Stewart. I want to write my own music.
I know, and now I'm Dad's age, and I would tell my son the same thing. It's kind of weird because he's
funny.
still playing baseball, doing something crazy that, he's blessed to do, but you never know how it's going to work out. I would still rather have him do that and fail than not to try. But
oh my God, yes.
Our dad was the best because he was a musician and a great drummer, and we all have my dad stories. He would support you on anything you did, but I know that he wanted us to have gigs where we made money because him growing up in Detroit, he had like 10 jobs before he landed his job at Tasty Bread. And he was
capitalism. Yeah. Make money. Working class Detroit. Nice. We have to work. We have to make money. Writing your own songs. How much are they going to pay you for?
No,
nothing.
And he's right. Unless you are a certain level. But I'd always get. What's that?
I just want to tell you. I think I told one of you, but I have had so many guys come on this show and tell me Bud stories.
Oh.
It was, yeah. I mean, I've had, at least 6 to 8 guys, one of your name comes up and they all speak so lovingly about your dad and just different Bud stories. So I thought that's really nice.
I mean,
there's not a week that goes by recording in the studios in LA where people don't mention our mom and dad, because our mom, Phyllis, she was a jazz vibes player, and she used to run the Thomas Brothers map before there was iPhone directions. And then they'd pull up, my dad would do my drum cartage, and my mom would sit outside and hang out. And I was doing an episode of Family Guy a couple months ago, and this engineer came over and goes, I remember your mom and dad. I'm like, wow, how many sons and daughters are able to have their parents, and then the LA studio scene, that's a pretty big scene with a lot of people, but they remember our parents, man.
Yeah. I've heard nothing but great stories about them both.
I remember my dad was doing drum cartage for my brother because he kind of figured people are making money setting up your drums. How much and he goes, like $400 He goes, I'll do that. So my dad became Greg's cartage guy, and he just would charm everybody. By the time he got to the session, he knew everybody. I remember before we both knew Ringo, before we knew Ringo, Ringo was recording in one of the other studios, and Dad's car was blocking Ringo's car, and Ringo was outside on the loading dock just waiting, and then Dad came out and he goes, Ringo, I'm so sorry, I'm going to move the car, and Ringo just looks at him and goes, I know you are, but when?
Wait a minute.
I remember.
You guys are dropping so many names; they're like all over the floor. I can't even see my top of my desk.
Can I just tell one more Bud story?
Please.
Yeah, go ahead, of course.
So the record plant in Hollywood, I get called to sub for John J.R. Robinson with David Foster, this really big producer that, larger than life guy, David Foster, right? So I said, Dad, when you go to the record plant, just set up the drums and, I'll meet you in the back by where the coffee is. I'll come around the back way. Well, I was running a few minutes late. Our dad was never late. I'm a few minutes late. It's like 5 minutes to 10, and the session's supposed to start at 10. So I walk in the front door, and I look at the big SSL board, and there's David Foster, and there's my dad sitting at the board laughing and talking to David Foster, and I'm going, oh, no. Carnage guys are supposed to be seen and not heard. And I crack the door, and I go, because David Foster is from Vancouver, Canada, and, we're from Detroit, Michigan. And I cracked the door. I go, Dad, hey, let's go in the back and get a cup of coffee. And David Foster never met me. He just looks and goes, why don't you go get a cup of coffee? I'm talking Bud hockey. I'm talking hockey with Bud. So he broke the ice, so to speak. He got me in there.
He was amazing. Both of them were amazing.
That's great, man. So I think we answered all the questions. What are tell me what your favorite songs are on there?
Whose, Matt's or mine?
Let Matt go first since he wrote them, and then I want to ask you.
Yeah, I own the song.
You are the song. You sing the song electric.
Created. I don't know, man. I was talking to Mike last night on the phone about this. It's kind of become one big entity. Like it's one big. What I like about it is it reminds me of an old album that you'd listen to, like a Weather Report or something, where every song you get used to hearing it in order.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the song, the next single, whatever a single is these days, is called Really, Really. It's kind of it's the poppiest song where it's kind of like just singing and playing, kind of like a Saturday Night Live band kind of thing. I like that one a lot. And I like Michael Collins a lot because everyone's just going nuts. And
Yeah, it's a great song, man.
nice. And I like the first song, Redcoats, because it has so many changes and things like that. But then there's a song called If Ida, which is just really just like simple and 4 chords and not trying to prove anything, just simple stuff. But it's amazing what 4 chords or even 1 chord can do, what can sound like when you have great players playing on it. Because these guys, the way that they voice chords and the way that they play, you don't even realize it's this very simple 3-chord song, you know? And that's the hard thing sometimes is you when you get into writing, sometimes you try and smart yourself and try and write these changes and stuff that are just so crazy. But then when you translate them, when you record them, you don't really hear all the little minors and little things like that. It's usually isn't it true with you, Greg? The songs that you most relate to are the simplest songs, the Beatles songs that are 4-chord songs.
I still think my favorite song of all time is All Right Now by Free. Just so simple. Oh, here's the tricky part. That's the whole song. But when that song came out and I was in the 6th grade, man, it's burned into my memory banks.
It's a great song.
So what are your favorite songs, Greg? You don't have to.
Well, I'm the same exact thing as Matt. Michael Collins probably number 1, because when I was asking him, who's Michael Collins? You know, and he goes, not a lot of people know about Michael Collins. Michael Collins was the guy, you know, when they landed on the moon, while Neil and Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong were on the moon, you were all alone. Please come home, Michael Collins. He was the guy that was circling around. Are you coming back yet? You know, he was holding down the fort. And it's such a great song because he doesn't get any notoriety. I didn't know who he was. But I love the way that song goes through so many styles, as many of them, like Redcoats. I played that song for Jimmy Earl, great bass player yesterday, that plays with Chick Corea, plays on Jimmy Kimmel. He's the bass player on Jimmy Kimmel. And it starts off with, Matt goes, what's the fastest you think you could play the ride cymbal? You know, and I said, about that fast. And he goes, let's start with that. And it's bars of 3. Play, you know, boom. And then it goes into a like kind of a Marcus Miller funk thing. And then it goes into 7/8 Chick Corea songo, you know, Latin Afro-Cuban songo. And so they were all freaking out going, wow. And Collins says, your brother Matt is very prolific. I love them all, though. I really do. I really, 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 really love them all.
What? All right. So let me tell. Is there any final last words any of you guys want to say? I'm afraid to ask
about
that
the
question.
Redcoats.
About anything? No, about anything, Greg.
Okay, Matt, you were hanging out in Dallas on a night off with Elton, I think. And
Yeah.
Mike Medina took you to see Andy Timmons. Tell us about what struck you with Andy and why you thought, I want to be in a band with this guy.
We talked about that in the beginning. It's just
That. You're late. You're late, Greg.
I'm late to the party, man.
But isn't it kind of like we were talking about earlier? It's like you got music and you're sitting in your room and you're writing songs and you play gigs once in a while, but then you it's like the experience of playing live and the feedback that you get from people when you do it. You can sit in your room and play it online concerts or whatever. But when I went in that club and just, you know, saw Andy play, and I was just like wind and heat coming at me, like when he was playing stuff, it's just that human thing that hits you and you just go, I got to do something with this guy. You know, I think I wrote another song that he played on for something else, but I told Andy, we got to do something, you know, and
yeah.
And you didn't know him before that.
No, I mean, we knew him from college, right? A little bit. And
no, I don't.
No,
think
he went to
Texas.
Miami. He went to Miami.
I knew of Andy. I mean, Simon Phillips works with him.
Yeah.
I've always heard about him and stuff. But
What about Wally Minko? Remember we did that Christmas album with Wally Minko, and it was so incredible the way he wrote and arranged all those Christmas songs. And then we did the Dan Fernero album that Wally Minko arranged. I'm late to the party, but have you talked about Wally Minko yet?
we talked about Wally, but can you ever talk about Wally enough? I mean, what a great guy.
Yeah, and we have the same exact voice.
Yeah. You know, for everybody, your listeners at home, Greg is, you should say it because I don't want to get it wrong. Because if I say you're the voice, I don't know what the status is.
Oh, well, there's the original voice of Winnie the Pooh was Sterling Holloway. Walt Disney picked Winnie the Pooh, picked Sterling Holloway to do the voice.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're Winnie the Pooh.
1968, right? And so when he died in 90, when Sterling Holloway died, I think in 1998, 99 or something. 81 he died. Then Disney got this great guy, Jim Cummings, to do Winnie's voice. But they needed another Winnie the Pooh voice for a backup for Jim in case he ever couldn't do it. And Matt and I were doing the end of Finding Nemo theme for Disney for Rick Dempsey at Igloo Studios, Gustavo Borner. And my chart was written really weird. And I said, hey, Matt, I don't have a DS or a double DS. I don't have a coda or a double coda. And the guy, Rick Dempsey, goes, come in here, please, quick. And I took the chart. I'm going to show them. My chart doesn't have a DS or a double DS or a coda or a double coda. And I brought the chart in, and he goes, you have that rasp like Sterling Holloway. I want you to audition for being the other, B Winnie the Pooh guy. So I started doing Winnie the Pooh's as the B guy back then because of that.
Dude, that is awesome. Yeah.
Could you say something about the Redcoats as Winnie the Pooh?
Let me see.
He's got a Pooh Bear costume on. This is classic. Oh my God.
To have that here.
Greg, you come prepared, man.
Up for Halloween.
You come prepared, bro.
Oh, bother. I always thought if I could have a small smackerel of honey, the interview would be much more fun.
Oh my God. Awesome. Hey, I don't know, Greg, I don't know if you're going to get cut off soon, but while I have it too, I just want to tell you guys that you guys are like so first class as professional musicians and as human beings. And it's really nice to have spoke to and gotten with both of you guys. And I really appreciate the connection and the opportunity that I had to be around you guys. You're like just first class people. So thank you.
What a nice thing to say. Thank you so much.
Don't we?
Huh?
We love you. We love you.
No, you're both just like very genuine. It's just I had a nice time talking with both you guys, and I know you could meet certain people and you could say, "Man, these guys' parents did such a good job," and you can definitely say that with you guys.
Well, your parents obviously did it as well because you're great guys.
That's another subject.
Fun. Oh, did I strike a wrong chord there?
No, it's just I wish it was true. It's just
I'm sorry.
No, it's just, hey man, it makes me feel good. It means all the hard work I did might have actually gotten me somewhere, man.
Well, look what you've overcome, and look at the great guy you are and what you've done and how everybody knows you and loves you and wants to be on your show. So that's kudos to you.
Well, thanks, man. That's really kind of you. I appreciate that. What did you want to ask? You were asking Greg something, Matt.
I was going to have him introduce, just talk about the Redcoats as Winnie the Pooh, but
that was so cool. Yeah. All right.
When Greg first got the job, he was he didn't want people to know he was doing it because he wants to do more work on drums. He's going, I don't want to be known as that. It's just kind of interesting how we all just want to work as much as we can. So.
Well, now I want people to know me as a voiceover guy because voiceover pays 7 times what the AFM union scale is.
Oh, hell
voiceover,
yeah.
SAG-AFTRA, 7 times more.
No. Like I said, Greg's not really doing much drum work anymore, but he's doing a lot of voice.
Only voice.
Hey, let me ask you this: if your kids must have loved that, right?
Yeah, they were really into Winnie the Pooh, and they helped me a lot because it took me months of preparation to really feel good about going in there and auditioning. It's one thing, as Disney would say, it's one thing to parrot a voice, but it's another thing to act. And I'm way down in the totem pole as far as actors. I sit in auditions. I do auditions for all kinds of voices. I have an agent, and I do auditions for commercials and all kinds of TV shows and stuff. I did a thing with the show Mixels for Cartoon Network, and anyway, all kinds of different stuff. But you sit in these auditions and they give you a script right there. And you're listening to the other actors audition. You go, oh my gosh, how come I didn't think about doing it that way? William Shatner used to say, just put commas in because he was is still a great actor.
Yeah.
And Scotty, I think we should go down and invade the planet. He puts commas in all these.
Oh, yeah.
And so you put commas in weird places. And Vinnie Colaiuta is one of my favorite drummers. So I tell people, I used to transcribe Vinny. Now I transcribe Winnie. And my kids would always help me, and I'd put accents and little diphthongs and accelerandos and retardandos and crescendos and decrescendos and staccato accents, long accents on these words. And my kids would say, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm writing musical accents." And my daughter, kids are very honest. "What do you think? You think this sounds like Sterling Holloway?" "No." So I'd work, and okay, Dad, that's good right there. They were brutally honest, and they helped me a lot.
But man, when you go on a first date and pull that out, it's got to be a home run.
I don't know. I'm not dating anymore. I'm over the dating thing. So I'm divorced. So I'm like, I just want to have God, my kids, my family, playing with Ringo, playing the drums, and the LA Dodgers, who better win tonight. What a game last night. Oh my gosh. Hey,
I think this is going to wind down in like 8 minutes. So let me just tell people where to get the record and make sure they listen to it. Again, it's the Redcoats, and it's REDD, and you can go to their website, The Redcoats, REDDCOATS. It is a wonderful record, man. There's some killer musicianship on here from everybody involved. The groove is amazing. The funk is amazing. And the chops on everybody is really cool. You'd think you guys played together for a long time. Also, you can find it at mattbissonette.com. You better get to that Matt Bissonette website, because I don't know how long that'll be around. This is a coming of age moment. Matt spells his last name. It's Matt, M-A-T-T, of course. Bissonette. Matt and Greg actually spell their name the same. It's B-I-S-S-O-N-E-T-T-E. So it's mattbissonette.com. Again, I'll do that one more time. B-I-S-S-O-N-E-T-T-E.com. Greg, do you have this on your website as well?
I do, and my website is the same, just myname.com. I have 2 G's at the end, so GREGGBISSONETTE. One of the longest names in drumming.
It is one of the longest names.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
I find that you are
we just learned something. I'm going to do that on the show too from now on.
Matt Shatner.
If the internet's breaking up.
Yeah. Or you do this a lot. You go, "I want to tell you something."
Also,
just kidding.
Hey, the new single, and also the record's available for streaming everywhere under the Redcoats. The new single is called "Just Give Me the News." You could see that on the website, redcoats.com. And theredcoats.com, and it's also on YouTube. Also, if you want to order the record, on the homepage of the Redcoats, scroll down like halfway. It'll tell you to order it, and you'll see a link for a website called InGrooves, INGROOV.es. And also, just to remind everybody, the original interview I did with Matt is going to be on the tail end of this. It was a great conversation. Greg has been on this show. It was an awesome conversation. All the people mentioned here, Doug Bossy, Ty Tabor, George Bernhardt, Andy Timmons. So make sure you check those out if you haven't seen them. Man, anything else, guys? Any final words?
I was wondering, I know I came late, but Matt, did you give a shout out to Tam for that amazing video work?
I did. Tam Johnson, who's Davey Johnson, guitar player from Elton. His son did the Just Give Me the News video. He's now working on another video for the Really, Really song, and possibly a Michael Collins video as well.
Oh, we need a Michael Collins video.
How did he do that with the cartoon stuff, man? Does he just, do you know the inner working of that? Does he pick characters?
I have no idea. I just told him, he goes, what do you want it to be? He goes, I don't want it to be political. I don't want, with everything going crazy, just want to keep it light. And he goes, well, I can do these, like we were talking earlier, you just let people do what they do, right? I mean, what do I know about making a video? So he's just like, we were talking about the Submarine record when you and I were kind of tossing about, like, tell him what to play on this. And I was like, I can't tell Steve how to play guitar. It's kind of like, you just kind of, I know Tam is great at it. So he just kind of, here's the basic idea. I just don't want anything using anybody from CNN or Fox or anything that's like draws attention to that. I just kind of want to be about just tell me what the news is and all the stuff that comes with it. I don't care about. I just want to know who died today or who got married. So yeah, Tam Johnson is great.
If I could just go off on that a minute, because Tam also did the video for a song called Mars that Matt wrote for my solo album, Warning Will Robinson, which again is all Matt's writing and playing and producing, and he helped me figure out what to play and sing and Pro Tool my vocals, you know. Anyway, so Matt licensed scenes from Nassau, I think. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and Tam put all these Nassau scenes in there. Warning, guitar solo. Oh no, drum solo. And that's an amazing job on the Mars. If you just go to YouTube and you type in my name and then Mars, you'll see Matt's song and Tam's amazing video editing.
That's cool. Hey, you guys, Greg, if somebody wants to connect with you and wants you to do some tracks for them or some voiceovers, is there a contact tab on your website?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt and I do years before the lockdown crap happened. Matt and I were already doing a lot of tracks for people. They'd send us the files. We'd play on their files. They'd Venmo or PayPal us. We'd send the files back, and they'd take a picture from our website and just put it on there. Hey, Greg and Matt played on your records. Well, now I've got a separate email set up and a guy named Frank Rosato that answers, and he tells all about the rates for Matt and I, what his rate is for engineering and the studio. All they have to do is type in this email, send an email to Frank, F-R-A-N-K, at greggdrums2@gmail.com. GREGGDRUMS, the number 2 at gmail.com. greggdrums2@gmail.com. And this friend of ours, Frank Rosato, will send them all the info and take it all the way through to the end finish line.
Great. And that's if you want to reach out to either Gregg Bissonette for drums or Eeyore or what do you call it? Pooh or Tigger or any other Disney characters you'd like him to play.
Well, I don't really get to, I would never do a Disney thing on my own. That's all Disney stuff. And we're supposed to be the man behind the curtain. I'm not going down that road. But if they need any crazy voiceover stuff, but really hire Matt and I. I'd love to have Matt and I play on anybody's tracks
that would
anywhere
be cool.
in the world that want us to play on their stuff, because we play well together, we work well together, and we have a blast hanging with Frank.
And we smell good. We're the smell good part.
And if you want Matt to play bass tracks or you're looking at him to lay down, so he does a ton of vocals, just reach out to that message, Frank at Gregg, Gregg drums 2 at Gregg drums 2. What is it? At Gregg drums 2?
Yeah, it's Gregg, Gregg drums 2 at gmail.com. And if
okay,
you know, if you
sorry
like
about
this,
that.
if you like the vocals on the Redcoats or you know, the Mustard Seeds or any of Matt's stuff, Spot, you can hire Matt to sing on your stuff. Simon Phillips just hired him to sing on a whole album.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
hey, Greg, I just wanted to say thanks for having us on. I know we're losing our marbles a little bit here, but
no.
Thanks for just being a good voice for getting people talking about music, you know, and I know
absolutely.
I know you love music so much, or you wouldn't be doing this. And I'm sure you see the best and the bad part of musicians. But on behalf of all of us, thanks for doing what you do.
My pleasure, man. I don't know which one of you. I think, Matt, you'll probably be able to stay here. Greg, I think you might get folded out. So let me just sign off, and both of you hang on for a minute. Everybody, first of all, thank you guys. You guys are great. I love the Redcoats record, and I hope it does real well. Everybody, please give the Redcoats record a listen. Everybody, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Matt Bissonette and Gregg Bissonette for everything and participating, and for all the good vibes they've put out over the years, all the great music. And most important, man, especially nowadays, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice. Go play your guitar or your bass or your drums or your Winnie the Pooh kit, whatever, and have fun. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We're going to show some love to the rhythm section today, man. We're with one of the coolest guests that I'm going to have on this show. I've been really looking forward to talking to Matt Bissonette. Like the first time we talked, we had like an hour-plus conversation. He's a lovely, just one of the nicest, deepest, kind people that you're going to hear. So I'm really happy to have him on the show. Matt is, if you don't know him, I'm sure you do if you're listening to this, one of the best bass players around, background vocalist. He's currently been out with Elton John since 2012. I want to read his background, but a couple of things. First of all, thank you to Danny Jacob and my man Doug Bossy for the connection. And don't forget, you can watch this on YouTube now, in addition to listening to the show on iTunes or wherever else you get it. And one quick announcement, if you can Tony Iommi, Jimmy Page, Santana, Mick Taylor, or Joe Walsh, man. If you can connect me with any of those guys, love to have them on my show. Please make the connection. All right, Matt Bissonette. Dad was a drummer. His mom played piano, and his brother Greg, of course, is also a drummer. His early career dreams really had more to do with playing sports than music, but when he was 12, his parents bought him a bass guitar. They were out of guitars that day in the store, and he's been playing it ever since. Once he learned to play, Matt earned pocket money playing in a wedding band and went on to join school jazz bands, local rock bands. Despite his early success, his mom insisted that he learn how to read music and how to play the trombone, which, thank you, was a chore at the time, but obviously now he's extremely grateful to have had those skills. His early live gigs included stints with the Kingston Trio and the Ink Spots, as well as playing the local Detroit scene, including a residency at the Detroit Lions football games. In 1979, Matt attended North Texas State University. 2 years later, he left college to join Maynard Ferguson's band and tour the world. That was like a recruiting. Didn't Maynard like recruit everybody from North Texas?
He did. He knew. I mean, first of all, Maynard was ahead of his time, and he was a rock star. You know, I mean, he didn't just play. He was, you know, great jazz trumpet player, but he knew to be a front man, and he knew how to get people to come to his shows, and it was really like a rock show with jazz. And so he knew also that he could get really good musicians that were eager to go out on the road, because you're pretty much getting in a Greyhound bus, you know, 20 guys driving 1,000 miles. So he would always get young guys that probably didn't know any better, and, you know, and could just do it, you know. So he would recruit from Berkeley and North Texas and Miami and all those schools, and he would pick up people all over the place. He was a very, very smart man.
Man, I've spoken to probably 10 people that have played with Maynard. So yeah, all through those schools, mostly North Texas, some Miami, and then I guess last would probably be Berkeley.
Yeah, they're all over the place. It was quite an experience.
Later, Matt moved to LA, and he had the distinction of playing 5 sets a day in the Disneyland band in Anaheim, a gig that he describes as one of the best ones he ever had, and we'll talk about that in a minute. In Los Angeles, Matt's musical career took off. He played every night in clubs, joined bands, and he went on the road with a wide range of artists, including A440, Gino Vanelli, Sheena Easton, Christopher Cross, The Captain and Tennille. In '88, Matt and his brother Greg joined David Lee Roth's band, and they spent the next 2 years touring the world to promote the Skyscraper album. After that, Matt relocated to Vancouver with David Lee Roth, his brother Greg, Jason Becker, and the great Steve Hunter, who was on this show, to record David Lee Roth's next album, which is A Little Ain't Enough. After that world tour, Matt and Greg left and joined Joe Satriani's band, where they made 5 albums with Joe, and Joe was also on the show. Another great interview if you want to check that out. Matt's also played with Rick Springfield, Jeff Lynne and ELO, Ringo Starr, Brian Wilson, Don Henley, Julian Lennon, Steve Perry, Ty Tabor, and Peter Frampton. But what everybody wants to know is, and by everybody, I mean Doug and George, when are the Mustard Seeds? When is the next Mustard Seeds album coming back out? What a great band, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. That was the funnest band ever. That was the best.
What is there like? Is there ever another album? Is there ever another Mustard Seeds album?
Well, we all kind of went in our own different directions for years, and then we just decided, you know, because, you know, back in the old days, being 1992 when we put the band together, I mean, it was always like, you know, you do an album and you go to Capitol and you record everything, and then you would do your vocals there and everything, and like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 later, you're going, now what do we do? You know, so you got to make up that money. So now with everybody in the band has home studios. So we decided after our second record in 1996 to just kind of do we got together to write the songs at my house, and then everybody kind of went their ways and did their parts. And, you know, it was great because everybody got to express themselves, which is the reason why we put the band together. It was never like I wrote the songs or Doug or George or my brother or Jorge, the drummer. We really wanted to make it a community of everybody writing and contributing, you know, and the Van Halen approach of splitting the songs so everybody stays in the band, you know, and making it a real, you know, an open thing. So it was easy to do the last record, and we always, you know, talk about doing it again. I just don't know when and where, but I'm hopefully before we leave the earth, it'll be another smash hit record.
I hope so, man. Well, I listened to the second and the third record. They're both wonderful, man. Really great records, man.
Well, thank you very much.
Really great records. Thanks so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this.
Thanks for having me, man. When you say that stuff, it makes me feel really old when you say it like that. You know? Thanks for doing all your research. You're quite the guy.
You being a sports guy, I got to believe playing Detroit Lions was like huge for you.
Yeah. Basically, my brother started playing drums from birth, you know, and he was always running around the house hitting things, and he'd be in the basement playing drums. And I remember when we'd eat dinner, he'd be down in the basement practicing his drums. And when it was time for dinner, my mom would go and flicker the light real quick, and then he would play his signature, and you hear the sticks go down. He comes up and we eat dinner. You know, so it was always around this. You know,
she was cueing him.
His first light cue. And my mom and dad were both musicians, you know, and my sister sang, and it was kind of a musical family. But before we got into that, I was kind of fighting the whole music thing because I didn't really like it. I didn't really like music that much. I just kind of grew up watching sports with my dad, being a Detroit fan, Lions, you know, Tigers, Pistons, and Red Wings. And it was really, as a young man, a young kid, I just kind of gravitated to sports, and I really loved it, and didn't really think about anything about music until I was about 8 or 9. I would start listening downstairs in the basement to band, you know, Kansas and Rush and different bands, and put my little headphones on and have a guitar as a tennis racket. You know, have a tennis racket, turn the lights off, and it just, you know, like every kid does, you start goofing off, and then it starts like, this is pretty cool, you know. And I never intended on being a musician. It just kind of, you know, my dad was a working musician playing on the weekends and playing in clubs and bars and stuff and weddings. And my brother was working with him. He'd play drums, and he would play on the rock tunes and disco songs that my dad didn't want to play because he kind of jazz and stuff like that, and different, you know, society songs and everything. But he would bring my brother along, and he would set the drums up for my dad, and then sit in the wings, and then my dad would point to him, and he'd come out there and play those songs. And I was kind of a million miles away from all that stuff until you know, my brother was kind of talking to me, going, it'd be great to, you know, do stuff together, you know. And then one day my mom and dad bought me a bass, and I thought it was a guitar. You know, I didn't know what the difference was because I was just banging away on a tennis racket. And we both got in the basement, and we plugged in my little amp, and just started playing Smoke on the Water for like 8 hours down in the basement. I realized what a bass does. It's not the it's the dumb guy part, you know. And so the light went on, and I just kind of got into it, and I liked it. And then like 2 weeks later, literally, my dad bought me a tuxedo and said, if you want to make $50 a night, you can just come play with my wedding band, you know. Like, and I was like, you know, what do I do? You know, I don't even know what to do. And he was so cool. He just said, well, whatever you want to do, just use your ear and play and just kind of listen. And then whenever I want a beer, I'll point to you, and you go get me a beer. And so I got to hang out.
He's going to get value out of you regardless,
yeah.
if you can play or not.
Yeah. So literally since I was probably 12, I was working every Friday, Saturday, making $50 a night. And that's, the Detroit thing really is a work ethic based thing. I know Bob Burtz, the bass player I replaced with Elton, had an amazing work ethic because it's kind of the area where you grow up. You just learn in Detroit and back east. It's a little tougher, and it's a little bit, you earn what you get, you know, very work-oriented city. So pretty much since I was 11 or 12, I was making a couple $100, you know, $400 or $500 a month, which was like gold back then, you know.
Sure.
And putting it away and just trying to learn how money works and stuff like that, and then learning how to play. And this accordion player named Harry Demersion, he was the accordion player with my dad. God bless him, man. I don't know what I was playing or if it even made sense, but he just smiled at me and just play and like pat me on the back and say I'm doing good and everything. So, I mean, the main thing in my life is I've been very blessed to be around supportive people. I've only had a few instances where people have been kind of jerks and kind of did things, but I think God put people in my life that just have guided me and always gave me positive feedback. So even the people that I work with today and through my life, it's always been really great people, you know. So like with Doug and George and the guys in the band, it was always just really fun and natural, you know, so it wasn't really ever work. It just kind of was fun.
Man, so a few things or a couple of questions about that. Um, you're a dad now. So you could imagine, I can't, your dad, and as a father myself, can you imagine how good he felt that he had both of his sons play? I mean, that must have been just such a treat for him.
I know exactly how he feels.
Yeah.
He, you know, he was a musician and he was really good. He was a really great drummer and he had his own big band and he just was a really good drummer. So when Greg and I got the gig with Maynard, it was like striking gold for him because one of my first concerts I ever saw was Maynard Ferguson with Peter Erskine playing Chameleon and all that stuff. And we grew up on that stuff. So, and Maynard played with Stan Kenton and that was one of my first concerts. And I was kind of dragged into those concerts in the beginning because I didn't think I'd like them. But I remember seeing Don Ellis was my first concert.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking it's just stinking jazz stuff. It's going to be a
trumpet player, right? Yeah, it's really good.
He walks out on stage in this parka, this hippie parka, turns his back on the crowd, drops his parka, picks up his trumpet, starts going crazy. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. So it was kind of like, you know, I mean, I got into listening to jazz, but I also got into the whole rock thing, jazz, you know, fusion thing. So when we would go see these shows, my dad would be kind of checking us out, kind of ushering us into, this is what the music is, and you might like it, you might not like it, but just be open-minded. So when we got the gig with Maynard, you know, 20 years later, whatever, when I was 19 or 20 when I got the gig, and I can imagine what my dad felt like because him and my mom and him would surprise us, and he would just drive to Cincinnati. We get off the bus, and there they were going, "Hey!"
Oh, man!
Out sometimes going, "Oh, hey, mom and dad are here," and it was awesome because they just were in the middle of it. And my dad and my mom, up until they passed away, they would do drum cartage for my brother. So we would show up at a session and my dad knew everybody and they would know him by name. And I remember Greg did a session for David Foster once and my brother was first time working with him and he goes, "Hey Dad, you know, if you set the drums up, kind of stay in a distance, you know, because you know, I never worked for David Foster before." And sure enough, Greg shows up at the session and my dad's at the sound bowl with David Foster. Greg goes, "Hey, Dad, why don't you come back?" And David goes, "Hey, Greg, it's okay. I'm talking to Bud. We're talking Detroit Red Wing hockey, you know." So, so my dad was really in it and he was always in it and very, you know. So, you know, fast forward to me being a parent of a kid who loves sports. And
right.
My son Joshua became a baseball player at like 3 years old. We were like, he was throwing both hands and when he was a little kid and I was seeing this kid's got a talent for this. And we just said, you know, you don't want to be one of those hovering parents that goes, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. But that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
When he, all through high school, he was playing in high school ball and little league and all that stuff. And we noticed that he was really good. So anyway, fast forward, he gets a scholarship to go to Baylor University to play baseball. And then he just got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates. So thus the Pittsburgh Pirate hat. And we just went and visited him last week, seeing him, you know, playing professional baseball in the minor leagues. And he's getting a paycheck every week for playing baseball. So I guess that makes it professional.
Yeah.
So I know what that feels like because you can't even put into words how you see your kid doing something like that. And something that's out of the box, like my dad and mom got us into music. I mean, come on, that's you're going to do that for a living, you know?
Right.
Like your son wants to play baseball for a living. I mean, it's kind of the same thing in different worlds, but the chances of survival through that are low. And if you keep creeping up the ranks, you just can't. I have seen a hand on my life and my family's life that I can only explain as God just saying, take these lives and put them in different places that are interesting lives, you know, that are just different than most, you know. So we're very, very thankful for that, and just thankful that my son is moving forward and playing ball. It's kind of a dream. So
yeah, man. Well, congratulations on your son.
Well, thank you.
That's really cool. And that's the first analogy, you know, many guys say, "Hey, I'm so grateful that I get to do this." The only other thing that would be similar is athlete. That's the first thing every musician says.
Yeah. And it's kind of the hit or miss thing. You either are failing musician or a successful musician or a athlete that tried and has to go do something else because he wasn't, quote unquote good enough, or
Sure.
you're making billions of dollars. On either way, you're either doing, I mean, it's more difficult probably just to kind of skim along as a musician or a sports guy, because you're either in or out, and you
Yeah.
know pretty early whether you're going to have that be a living, and it's different than any other thing on the planet.
It's similar to musicians, because they can make millions of dollars as well.
Yeah, I mean, the record company, and then
Matt, what do you consider like your big breakthrough musically, as far as making it, or getting validated that hey, I'm in the right place here? And maybe it was a Maynard gig, I don't know.
When I started in Detroit, I was kind of just like a ship without a rudder, kind of just going in every direction. And at that time, in 1973, 74, 76, whatever, music was so different, because you could turn on the radio on your car and then you hear a weather report on this channel. Then you hear Chicago, then you hear Kansas and Rush, and you hear all this music. It was like an open thing. So I was kind of all over the place, and I liked everything. In high school and junior high school, I got into big band stuff and reading, and just like you said earlier, my mom got me into trombone, which was amazing, because she knew I needed to not just be able to jam and hear and listen with my ear, but to be able to know music and other instruments and stuff. So,
and is that the same? Is that in bass? Trombone is in bass, or is that in?
Yeah, they're both
yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah.
But I tried to, she got me into reading treble clef as well, and different things, and trying to just broaden the picture, and she was really the driving force that kind of made us practice, took us to lessons and stuff when my dad was working. And she was pretty amazing visionary for that stuff. And they were just great parents for that stuff. So I was finding my way. And then when I got into high school, I remember we were driving my van, which was the party van back in Detroit. And we were the last day of school, graduation. And I remember pulling the van around because we were going to soap some windows or do something crazy. And all the guys, when we pulled around the school, they pulled the van door open and they mooned the school. And the principal and all his supervisors saw them, all these butts hanging out of the van. They were counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was so freaked out, we went and painted my van, thinking right? Came back to school, and there's the principal, come into the room, and he goes, asked my dad to come down and said, we're thinking of not letting him graduate, because this was just, so I'm in the hallway freaking out, but he's in the room with my dad, and he shuts the door and he goes, Bud, I got to do something, because this was, a big thing, but it was actually pretty funny. Let's just make him sweat by not graduating, So that was kind of my first moment where I was like, oh man, there's life after high school and after driving around in my van. And if I don't go to college or do something, what am I going to do? Because at that time, Greg was already at North Texas. He was in his second year. And I kind of just followed my brother everywhere he went,
Right.
He goes, you should come down here. So I finally.
What a nice, like both times I've heard you, when he said, hey, why don't you check out, it sounds like what a good relationship, what a great loving big brother, man.
Yeah, he's a big brother and my best friend, and it's just it's just a friend thing. And we've always kind of opened doors for each other for different things, but I can honestly say I've ridden his coat feathers on the majority of things. And I've noticed with him, he's just got a great instinct for business and for music and stuff. And that's why we like to work together so much. So I just kind of followed him. And when he kind of talked me into going to school down there. So when I got down there, I was kind of floored, because I went as a music ed degree. So I was going to play classical bass and jazz, but my degree would have been for music ed. And I realized early that I wasn't very good with the bow. I mean, I was playing with the orchestra, and I remember this orchestra teacher didn't like me very much because I was playing in the jazz band as well. And I had to miss a couple rehearsals or something. And he kind of had an attitude about jazz guys. So he would do this thing where we'd be playing, there'd be 3 basses, and we're all playing bows. And we'd play this part, and they'd go, okay, basses, bar 199, 3, 4. We'd play like this and play. And he'd go, okay, stop. He'd go, you. And he'd point at me. And I'd be like, just squeaky sound. And he would just kind of get in my grill for that stuff. And I realized kind of early that I wasn't really a classical player. And then I was kind of going, I don't really want to get a music ed degree to teach anyway, because I kind of want to play and go out on the road and stuff or whatever. And then part of me was just going, I don't even know if I like music enough to continue it. And my third year of school, I was going to go back to sports and get a PE degree or something like that. So along the way, when I was at North Texas,
but dude, you look like a gym teacher right now, like with that outfit on. Yeah, give me Tony. Push.
I mean, I just love sports. I mean, I never really been like the musician-y look type guy. I just kind of a normal, when I go to my son's games, all the parents thought I was a construction driver or a professional. So, I mean, I've never really buckled to worry about like the image thing. I'm kind of like Joe. And Joe, I listened to your interview with Joe, and it's kind of like, you kind of don't fit that box. You just kind of, do whatever.
Satriani?
Yeah. Really cool. I mean, Joe's great. And
great guy.
Relating to him, we got a lot of, we used to talk about that stuff all the time. But so basically, when I got to college, I was kind of going, I was just around a bunch of really, really great players. And they were like, when you in sports, you get into another team and there's a whole other level. I remember the first time I went to a club and I heard Gary Willis. I don't know if you ever heard of Gary Willis, bass player. Mm-hmm. He's like this phenom guy that plays every note with a different string, because I'm basically just a straight ahead guy with 2 or 3 fingers. But he would play with his, like a guitar. He was a flamingo guitar player, or like a acoustic player. And so he could play 10 times faster than anybody. And I saw him at a club my first weekend at school. And I told my brother, I went back home and started packing my stuff, going, I'm done. If everybody plays like this guy, there's no future for me. I got to get out of here. And he talked me into staying. And I just started getting better because I was playing with better musicians. It's like, there's nothing worse than when you're growing up in a city and you're forced to play with whoever those players are at that city, who are the big fish in that city. And like when you play with a drummer as a bass player and he starts slowing down, it's like having a monkey on your back, and it's the end of the world. So when I got to that school, the level was so high that it just made you play better. And I remember one day I was in a small group with a bunch of guys that were really good. Tim Reese was a sax player, Barry Smith was a drummer, Dave Alexander and was a trumpet player. And I noticed the jazz guy, whose name was Dan Hurley, who was the leader of the small groups. We played a concert for all the people to watch and judge us and tell us what we were doing. And he made the note. He goes, I want to make a special thing for this guy, Matt, bass player, because I've seen him make strides in the last 2 years, And I didn't even know that was happening. I was just listening to records every day, practicing every day. And back then in North Texas, they'd have these things called sessions, right? Now sessions are, how much do I make at this session to record? But back then, you would put your upright and your electric bass in the car, you drive to somebody's house, you'd set up and you would play real book tunes for like 3 or 4 hours with 4 horn players, and you're just playing bass for like hours where all these guys are soloing and just playing and just sweating and bleeding and then you pack up your stuff and then you go to another jam session and you do 3 or 4 of those a day. Wow. So as far as school, I learned the stuff at school, but it was the outside of the school thing that I learned how to communicate with musicians and how that was happening and what music really was. And the main thing was just listening to everything and being open-minded to every kind of music. We used to play 4 nights a week with my brother and Paul Van Amelia, a piano player from Detroit, at a country bar. We had a country band where we all had to sing. So we were doing everything, and playing every kind of music and not saying, I'm not going to play this or I'm going to play that, just being real open-minded, So when Greg was playing in Dallas at a club, and he wanted to play with Maynard really bad. So he knew Maynard was playing in Dallas, and he invited them to come down to this club called Popsicle Toes. Buster Brown's, I think it was called. He was in a band called Buster Brown in a club called Popsicle Toes. And they came down there. Maynard didn't come, but the lead trumpet player, Stan Mark, did. And he goes, you're going to be the next drummer in this band, right? So a couple months later, they needed a bass player and a piano player and a sax player. So Greg recommended me, and so I had to put together an audition tape, send it to Maynard, and then he called me and I got the gig. So, but at that time I was just turning 20 and I was getting burned out on music school and I was going to switch degrees. So that mid-season of school, I quit school and just went on the road with Maynard. So, and then Greg a year later came out after Dave Mancini, the original drummer, quit. So, all these things kind of went like a Christmas tree straight up towards this spot of just going, now I know what I want to do. And then when I went on the road with Maynard, it kind of reified, I love music. I love doing this. Let's just do this for a living, kind of by.
That's cool. Were your parents were cool with your decision to leave?
Oh yeah. They didn't care what we did as long as we were happy, just, and playing music. I mean, they were just thrilled about that,
It's funny because we all do things in life, and we all, everybody has obstacles whenever you're doing anything, and they're normal. But because we're all alone, nobody knows that it's normal. What made me think of that is when you said, oh man, I saw this guy play. It was Dave Willis, I think you said?
Gary Willis.
Gary Willis. And I felt like quitting. So I got to tell you, I've interviewed, let's say 550 people. At least 10% of them have told me that story, whether it's guitar players, bass players, and at the time you think you're alone, but it's interesting. Where everybody's experiencing the same stuff at different, when you're doing stuff, when you're moving forward with your life. Yeah. And it's just so interesting to hear this, and that, it's a good reminder for myself, and hopefully for everybody listening, that, if you're stuck in something, man, you're not you're not the first guy that's.
Yeah, man. All this stuff. I mean, music is important. It's great, and it's an amazing thing. But there's so much more important things than playing your instrument and playing and having a job, playing music and all that stuff. And that's just life in general,
Yeah.
Trying to be a good person and trying to have something that you believe in, and having a thing that just makes your life better and makes other people's lives better by what you do. And adversity is the thing, man. It's the teacher that when people don't have it, they become spoiled and they become bad people, So anything that's ever, even recently, like at home, we have, I've been out on the road, for a long time with Elton, 7 years now. This last year was probably the toughest year of my life, because there was a bunch of first world problems, nothing big, but just little things that really tested your spirit to see if you just, what you're going to do. Because in the old days, when I would have problems, I would drink, or I would do stupid stuff, And then when you grow up a little bit, you kind of go, I don't have to do that, but I have to deal with this pain head on.
Yeah.
Medicate myself. I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen, but I'm going to deal with it, And I remember the few times that I had adversity situations. There was a keyboard player I worked with back in Detroit. It's hilarious. I went down his basement in my middle year of college, and I had my upright. And I was thinking I was Eddie Gomez at the time, where when I'd solo, I'd close my eyes and go really high up on the acoustic neck. And the way he plays is just amazing. And I thought I was Eddie Gomez Jr., And I went down in this guy's basement, and we're jamming because we're going to play in the summer in Detroit on my off year from college. And I go to take my solo. And while I'm playing, my eyes are closed, and I'm thinking I am the most amazing player. These guys are loving me, and they're blessed to have me come from North Texas back to Detroit. And then I hear the keyboard player, whose band it was, stops comping. He stops playing. And I'm thinking, he must be freaking out how good I am, because he's supposed to listen to me. And then I'm playing, and then the drums stop, and I'm going, oh man, he's digging on me too. This is pretty cool. And then I'm playing, and I open my eyes, and they're looking at me with this disgusted look on their face. And I'm going, what's going on? And then the keyboard player just unloaded on me. What the blah, blah, blah you doing, man? How can you disrespect us like this? And I didn't know this whole Detroit scene, what was going on. And he freaked on me. Now if somebody said that to me, I would just pack up my stuff and go, have a nice day, see you later. But I was so young and impressionable, I wanted to do a good job. I spent the whole summer working with this band, trying to fit in and trying to do what he wanted me to do. Granted, all these years later, I can look back and go, that made me grow 10 years.
Yeah.
Because every time I would play a wrong change or a turnaround or something, he had this vein that went in his neck. He would yell at me, freak out. my mom and dad would come and they go, "Why are you putting up with this?" And go, "I just want to be a better player. You know, this is the worst thing that happens to me." So I went that whole summer with this guy on me, and that probably made me a lot better player. So then when I went back to school, I kind of grew a little bit more, and I was ready for that. But those kind of situations, whether they're pleasant or not, when they're happening, really make you the man or woman that you are. And you really, and even this last year, man, with, you know, we had some problems with our house with mold issues and stuff, and my wife was sick, and I was out on the road, and we're putting money into our house to try and fix it. We try and sell the house. We have this buyer who are buying our house, and he's been nothing but a pain, making us do stuff. My son, we didn't know if he was going to get drafted or not for baseball, and just a million little things. And I thought I was going to crack, you know, because it was like, I can't go out to the bar. I can't do anything really stupid. I just got to deal with this pain and figure it out. And so sometimes I think that stuff, you know, when you have horrible musical experiences, they usually come back to help you in some weird, wacky way. So I'm not welcoming that stuff. I'm not saying I would like it or I want it, but I'm kind of learning as an older person now that there are reasons for everything you go through, you know?
Yeah. I have this expression, and I need to tell it to myself more often sometimes, but you can't connect the dots moving forward.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's, you know, like you said, adversity always makes you stronger, but you don't know what that looks like. And, you know, you often want to say, okay, listen, just let me get to the end already and pay the dues, and let's expedite the pain. You know, the pain is in the process.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's life in general. Nothing's easy. I mean, you kidding me? We're musicians. You know, this is a guitar show, and I'm a bass player, and thankful to be on a show for guitar. But I mean, it all. But I mean, are you serious? We picked this to bring up a family. You know, in real life, I mean, everybody loves to play and it's fun, but when you dive in and really do it, you got to have some kind of plan of, is this what you want to do with your life? Because there's a million guys that play for fun, and that's great. And they're probably happier than we are because we have to make a living at it or have some kind of plan, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, how crazy it is that we're all doing this. And, you know, I mean, through your show, you're doing this for a living, making, you know, interviewing people around the world. And I mean, you have a plan for what you want to do. You just don't just go, I think I'm going to do this. You got to have some kind of, you know, projectile where you're going to, you know, and sometimes musicians we aren't the smartest tools in the shed to begin with, you know, so it takes some thinking, you know.
You know, I know what you're saying, but I think and I know you're being facetious. I was amazed at how bright most musicians are. You know, I didn't necessarily have any preconceived notions, but musicians are very big readers.
Yeah.
Very big. And usually when people read, they tend to be bright. I don't think, it's weird, they're almost allergic to business though. And I don't understand. And there's no business curriculum given to you guys, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
well, there is, as Steve Lukather says, there's no business. Because yeah, I mean, most guys I know, they like our percussionist with Elton's band, John Mahan. He went to do a talk with a music school, and they wanted to have him on to how you succeed in the music business. And the first thing he says is, okay, so I want everyone to raise their hand that bought a CD or an album in the last 2 weeks. No hands. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 years. Nobody's hands went up, right? I mean, you're talking about downloading a song, paying for it.
Yeah.
He looked at him and just says, well, I don't even know why I'm here. Because if you're not going to support your own livelihood, do you think anybody else is, you know? And,
yeah, man.
And so we're in a business that's kind of a sinking ship, whether we want to admit it or not. It's a beautiful business. It's a beautiful thing to make music, to make a CD. I mean, I have an attic full of literally 20,000 CDs that nobody will ever hear of my own.
Yeah.
But I had to do them, and I had to spend the money because I wanted to, and I needed to, because music is something that, you know, you just have to get it out. And if you can do it, if you can, you know, now it's a lot easier than it used to be. But I had to throw pretty much most of those CDs away when we were moving our house because they're just taking up space.
Yeah.
And nobody's really, I don't know if the music business will ever turn around. I don't even know how bands do it now. I'm sure there's the millennial smart thing of the YouTube videos and the merchandise and stuff like that. To me, it's I've already been around the rodeo a million times, and I'm like going, how do you squeeze grape juice out of these grapes anymore?
Yeah.
So I applaud the new generation for what they're doing. I mean, this is kind of the last, guys like Elton and Ringo and, all these guys that have been around. When this leaves the earth, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the music business. And I'm optimistic that it can be as strong as ever, but you just don't cut the legs off of music like it has been done in the last 15 years. I mean, I used to write music for TV and movies and stuff, and you'd get, you'd send in the song, you'd get $1,500 up front, you'd get your publishing, and then you'd get a back fee, you get $2,500 like that. And then you got hundreds of songs working, making money.
Right.
This is a business. And then 10, 15 years ago, bands started giving their music away for promo for their band, and companies seize that and they start saying, well, why should we pay you anything? So musicians have done that to themselves, and we may be smart and book smart and stuff like that, but we have kind of killed our own business, and that's not.
No, I hear you.
So then it just comes down to the point in my life. I go, what do I want to do, and how much do I want to spend to make something, knowing that probably no one's going to really support it or buy it, supporting or buying even the biggest things, So I learned my lesson with why we were talking earlier about Facebook and having things
social
online.
media.
Yeah, so social media. Sorry, I've been so removed from that because my last experience was I'd make CDs, make 1,000 of them, spend a bunch of money to have them, put them on CD Baby, and they'd sell. Sometimes more than others, but over the years I just saw this decline happening where I'm going, people aren't buying music anymore. So then I got the gig with Elton, and I said, you know what, I need a write-off. I'm going to write a Christmas EP, 5 songs, and I'm going to give it away, and on my website. And I said on my website, this is after thousands of CDs where people buy 200, 300 of them over the years, and you never really make back your money for it. So I put out this Christmas CD, and I say, I'm going to give away 1,000 CDs. First ones, first come first. Within an hour, they were all gone. And that's when the light went on for me.
Wow.
I had people complaining that they didn't get their CD in time for Christmas.
Oh, don't get me started on that, man. Please. That's, I mean,
a product that somebody spent money on.
Why didn't you ship it FedEx?
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you give me a free CD and it's late? Yeah. That's bullshit.
How dare you talk about Jesus on this Christmas CD?
Yeah. How dare you talk about Jesus on a Christmas CD? So, what's going on?
The light went on, and I just kind of went, that's great, but I just don't want to do that anymore. So
why? That sounded awesome. I know you played at Disneyland. Did you play with Jorgensen?
No, John played a little bit before I did, and we were just talking. John subbed for Davey on our last tour that we did in Europe, and he told me that he said to say hi, by the way.
Oh, cool.
John was a couple years before me because John grew up in California, and he was playing that, pretty much in high school. So I got to, after North Texas and after going out with Maynard, Greg moved to LA, and then he said, you should come to LA, and I followed him, of course, and then got out there, and then I was there for about 4 or 5 months, and then I got called to be in a band in New York City called Casper, which was like a British rock band. So I moved to New York for a few months, probably 6 months, and then I
really, who is in that?
I was this guy named Casper, who was a really good guitar player, singer guy from England, and he had some hits in like '83, and he just hired a band out, and we played in the band every day, and then rehearsed and stuff, played a few shows, and then I could kind of, it started getting so cold back there, and I remember I was so broke that me, the drummer, and I lived in a house named Dave Beal, and it was so cold, and we were so broke. The last night before I left, we were sleeping in the same sleeping bag in the middle of the floor with the oven open,
Just to stay warm.
Yeah, and I woke up to go to the bathroom, and I looked at him, and he had icicles in his nose, and I went, "That's it. I'm done. That's it."
Oh my God!
I died from a stove. So got in the car, came back to LA, and then just started working. I mean, I just started playing top 40 gigs, just playing, learning the songs. Got in the top 40 band, and then started playing in a jazz band with a guitar player named Pat Kelly. He's a really great guitar player, with my brother, and we would play that. And then I heard about at that time I was playing 7 nights a week, top 40.
Wow.
7 nights a week with one band, and 2 nights a week with another band called Donna and the Kids. I can't remember the name of the other band, but they were really good. We played at this club called Wampuppers up in Universal Studios. So at that time I was, making pretty good money and stuff. And then I got called to audition for Disneyland. So I, drove out to Disney and did the audition. And that's the funny thing. It's kind of like you never know what's going to happen with everything. I remember Bernie Dressel, the drummer, he set me up with the audition. And there's like 50 bass players all sitting around. And it was for the band that comes up from the ground at Tomorrowland Terrace. And I remember the band came up, and I was looking, and I saw this girl singer, and I was like, oh man, who is this girl? And I just fixated looking at her, and they were checking out guys, and I went up and auditioned, and we were talking and laughing, and then I was like, going, man, I better not get this gig, because I'm gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. And sure enough, I get the gig. Band, and from that gig, I met my wife, and the singer, was my wife.
Oh man, that is so cool.
Later on, we got married, and then
that's so cool.
One of my best friends was the drummer Sergio Gonzalez, and all the guys in the band, I've kept in touch with them. So I met probably 5 or 6 really, really good friends to this day that are like my best friends, and my wife. So
that's amazing.
Never, I've just learned to say yes to whatever I can, because you never know, something like that. So just played in top 40. So I'd play 7 nights a week, and then get up early and drive to Disneyland in Anaheim from my house in the valley. So like a 2-hour drive.
Oh wow.
Play from 11 to 5, get something to eat, and then go straight to the top 40 gig. I did that for a year, and then I was in a band called A440, and then we went on the road for a while. Then the Gino gig happened, and all this stuff started happening. Sheena Easton, different band. Then just a bunch of different things came out of it, and then led to Dave's Lee Roth's gig. It was really just saying yes to everything, and just doing it.
That I remember John said that was such great training, because you'd play 4 or 5 different genres of music every day, to costumes. And I mean, he said it was like free tuition.
Yeah. Well, John's such a musicologist. Him and Jim Cox are 2 guys that I feel like I don't even know anything about music when I'm talking to those guys, because they have a whole other level of knowledge. And so John was in more of the different bands where they would go around playing bluegrass and walking around the park, and we weren't really in costume. We were pretty much just playing top 40.
Okay.
But yeah, John, that was a great gig, man. You had healthcare with it. You had you had all this stuff, and paid really well. You're in the union and everything. So not that that's great or whatever, but it's
no, but when you're a kid, come on, man, you feel secure doing that. Of course, it's good.
21, 22 years old. In Los Angeles, just like a little kid, just looking at everything and taking it in, and then making LA, instead of being afraid of it, because any place you move to and start over, it's pretty daunting until you get a girlfriend or you get a best friend, and you start taking over that city because you know it now. It's part of you. You're not scared of it anymore. And people say all the time, you should move to Nashville. And if I moved to Nashville tomorrow, it'd be good for some things, but then you're starting all over, man, and the clicks and everything. Any place you go, it takes you years to get there. And I have friends of mine that move here from all over the world. Just don't give up, and just keep taking any gig you can. And probably 5, 6 years later, you see what happens. But it takes a while in any city. Yeah.
And how long have you been with your wife now?
25 years.
Dude, congratulations. That's a nice story.
Thank you.
Very cool. Really cool. Very cool. All righty. Let's talk David Lee Roth. Is it a safe assumption to say Billy left and then your brother recommended you? As far as how you got the gig?
Yeah, I mean, I was always, I mean, I wrote some songs for those guys when I had a publishing deal in 1985 with Polygram. So I was writing songs. I had my Akai 414s and whatever they're called, and synced them together and started writing, getting really into writing. And then I got a publishing deal and wrote a couple songs for Dave. A couple of them made him on his records and stuff. And then Billy and Dave kind of went their own ways, you know, and they needed somebody because the Skyscraper tour was coming up right after Billy left. So Greg called me and asked if I wanted to do it. And at the time, I didn't really want to do it because as much as I liked that music, that wasn't really where my head was at. You know, I was kind of into different kind of stuff. So I was out on the road with Sheen Easton and doing stuff with different bands. And then I was kind of like, well, yeah, let's do it, you know? And it was great. And I'm really happy I did it, but it really wasn't where my brain was at that time. This was like 1987. And so I went down to Dave's basement and we rehearsed the show. And then it was like a whole other world, man. It was just like, I remember when my brother got the gig, I just saw his life change completely, you know, and, you know, the whole rock star thing. And I say in quotes and it's just a life-changing experience. And at that time it was pretty hot and, you know, pretty big deal. So it was, it was an experience. There was a lot of, you know, adversity with that too, and good and bad things. And you know, for a couple of 2-3 years, it was a great job. And Dave was awesome. And he taught me a lot about, you know, entertaining and how much work it comes into just being on all the time. And great guy. And playing with Steve and Brett Tuggle and my brother. And it was just, I would just be looking around going, is this really going on right now? I mean, I remember the craziest thing was my first show, because I knew, you know, you take the place of somebody like Billy. I'm always that guy that has to take some bass legends after they leave, like with Stu Ham. It's like, you're going to play after Stu Ham or you're going to play after Billy. And I knew as soon as I got that gig, I could never play like Billy, because Billy's thing is, it's just amazing. And for that thing, I could never do the stuff that he did, but I know I could fit into the band and I know I could play. And when, you know, I would just try and shed as much as I could to try and cop Billy's parts, not even getting close to what he does. But I just had this weird feeling that something weird was going to happen. Like when I got on the first show, and I remember the first show, I was praying, I was going, God, just keep me safe and just let this go good. Sure enough, man.
So you had like a real weird feeling then.
Well, I just knew that taking his place, like with Stu's place, there's going to be people that didn't like it because it wasn't them.
Yeah, you know, I hear that. That always, like, people are really nutty about that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't taking it too seriously because I felt pretty secure about myself, and I knew God has a plan for my life, and it was going to be okay, and I knew I was good enough to do it. Not exactly like those guys, but a little different thing. And everyone's going to have their opinion. Another reason I got off of social media is that I don't really want to hear what somebody thinks about me or what they think I can do better, you know, or what I can do or whatever. They don't like you. And when you look at yourself on social media, you find 100 nice things, and then you find that one bad thing and you focus on that one thing. So I just remember kind of going, this could get off to a rocky road. So the first show, I don't even know where it was, but the lights come down and the lights are going crazy, and Greg going nuts on the drums, and Steve's going, and then we introduce David Lee Roth, and he walks out, runs out on stage, and he's flipping his stuff around, his nunchucks and everything, and I'm going, wow, this is a circus, man. This is like, this is nuts. I mean, this is crazy, and we're all, you know, our band things, and we're jumping around, screaming, and whenever David point to it, you go on the mic and you just scream, and it was like 20,000 people screaming and girls in the front row, and it's just nuts, you know. And I'm looking out while I'm singing, and as I'm singing, I'm seeing this nunchuck come flying right at my head. It's going boom, and it hits me right in my strap, and it sticks to my strap, and it's going like this, you know, it's going wah, 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 wah. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, God, what's the deal? It's the first song. What's going to happen, man? I'm going to die out here. So I take the nunchuck out, throw it on the ground, said a quick prayer, God help me, and it never happened again. But it was just kind of like
Wow.
What did I just walk into, and how is this going to happen every day? I mean, we used to go do like Monsters of Rock and stuff like that, and literally it'd be like 120,000 people, and they would urinate in bottles and throw them on the stage because it was like, rock and roll stuff. And I remember the time we played that was the show where Guns N' Roses opened up, and 5 people died because they were suffocated in the mud for that show. And then we had to go on after. And I remember they were saying maybe we shouldn't go on. And I remember Dave said, if we don't go on, probably they're going to get more mad and more people are going to die. So you walk up on stage knowing that they're wheeling away people who have died at a rock concert.
Holy smokes.
I mean, there's stuff like that. And for me at that time, I was kind of going, as much as I loved it and it was fun and it was a good job, I was kind of looking more inward, going, what is music really about? And because I really feel like music is a gift that God has given you to glorify God, because God is pretty amazing and made music. And it's taken me a long time to figure out that I think a problem with music and the spirit of music is because as soon as you write a song, it can become about you. And, in the way that the world is now, there's selfies and Self magazine and this and that, and everything points to how cool you are. Like I used to play songs for people and look at their faces and go, that's pretty good, right? I mean, I did pretty good on that. Instead of just having God give you an idea, you write it and you go, God blessed me with that song, and it's pretty amazing. I kind of got into the me thing for years, where I had to really struggle to get out of that. And I think sometimes that's the problem with culture and the problem with where we are in the world right now, is it becomes about you, and it really shouldn't be. So at that time I was kind of going, I don't know about music. I don't know if I want to keep doing it. It's fun and it's a good job, but if I ever have kids, how am I going to support a kid if I decide to leave this band or that? So with Dave's thing, it was an awesome experience that I got to be great friends with Steve and all those guys, and my brother and Brett and Dave and all the people that work, the crew guys, a lot of friends and stuff. But I kind of, after a couple of years, was kind of going, and music was changing anyway. I mean, you're talking 90
grunge
directions. Yeah. And so getting out of that, just going on to other things, it was good for everybody.
Wow. So is that, how old were you then? Mid-20s?
I think by that time,
late 20s.
26, 27.
So you started thinking more, it was that time you started thinking less me-centered and more like purpose-centered.
Yeah. I mean, there's that thing, man, it's kind of hard to explain to people that aren't musicians, that whether you're playing in a top 40 band, a club band, or in front of 1 million people, it quickly becomes about you. It quickly becomes I'm singing this thing and you're listening to yourself, and you can go off, and it's just the human spirit. It's how we're built. We're built to be selfish, and we're built to be self-glorifying, and it really takes an effort to not make it about that. I do it to this day, man. I mean, I can't, when we go on the road with Elton, you put your headphones, your ear things in, put my hat on, my sunglasses, and my suit, and go out there. And the first song happens, and you're automatically thinking, man, I'm pretty cool. I got this gig, and all these people love us. But I know why those people are there. They're not really there to see Matt Bissonette and how good he is. They're there to see Elton John. They're there to see Joe Satriani. They're there to see David Lee Roth. So being a sideman and being a bass player, it really humbles you down to the ground, to just going, I'm just thankful to God that I'm in a band and I'm getting paid for it, and I can be on stage with these guys. And it quickly got zapped out of me, the whole me thing, because I know who I am, and I know the things that I can do, and what a bad person I can be, and I can be a good person. But majority of the time, when I start thinking about myself, I just kind of get disgusted and have to constantly think what this whole thing's about, and it ain't about so, and one of the cool things about the Mustard Seeds was in this band, and we were writing songs, and I remember I got married right in the beginning of it. And like most guys, you have a problem because you're dating 1 million girls, and you're having this thing where you're having to deal with trying to do the right thing and not sleeping with every girl in town, because eventually you're going to die from it, or you're just not going to have a great life, for me, in my view, until you settle down and you have a real marriage or a real family and stuff. So I remember, you know, because being in a band, girls check you out. They're like doing this, and then you have the option to do it or not do it. And at that time, I remember, I don't even know if I told Doug this, but we got this band together and we're playing. And I started dating my wife, and I'm going, okay, I got to just be with one girl for the rest of my life and shed off the past of multiple girls and other things, you know. And I prayed, God, give me something that's going to remove that thing so that I don't keep thinking about, you know, girls all the time.
It's called Don't Leave Your House.
Exactly. So I remember, you know, Doug got in the band, George and my brother were in the band. We're playing in some club, one of the first gigs, and we're playing the gig, and this girl starts walking, beelining right up to me, and I'm thinking, she's gonna hit on me, and then I'm gonna have to make a decision here. Walks right at me and turns left at Doug Bossy. Right to Doug. And from that point on, every girl was going after Doug, and I'm going, that's exactly what I prayed for. Even though my ego was going, what about me, man? I'm a good-looking guy. What about me? But it's amazing how God works and how things happen, not the way that you think it's going to happen. But that kind of made me just kind of wean off of that whole, what I thought life was and how you're supposed to be with girls or how you're supposed to do this and that. And it made me settle into a great marriage and just going, I love my wife, and having my son, I kind of see the big picture and the right way to do it. Sooner or later, everybody has to deal with that stuff. And some people don't, and maybe it works out for them. But I mean, for me, it was pretty humbling, but great at the same time. So Doug's quite the good looking guy. So
I mean, he's a guitar player.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's funny. He and I had this conversation because we got to meet in Nashville for the first time in NAMM. So we talked about some of this stuff. It was quite interesting. When you said earlier, you know, you stopped using drugs and drinking, was there like a bottom for you, or I mean, if you're comfortable talking, if you're not, that's totally cool.
I don't really have a story as far as like, a lot of people, when they become Christians, they go, I became a Christian because I needed an answer for my drug problem or drinking or sleeping around or pornography or whatever. And they say that faith sometimes is like a crutch, you know, it's like it's a oxygen or something like that. I kind of relate to that, and I kind of see how that works for some people. But for me, I never did drug. I probably smoked pot probably 5 times, and every time I did it, I either laughed myself to sleep or I never really got into drugs, even though a lot of my friends were, and I saw it. But I didn't, for some reason, to do it. But I did like to drink. And back in Detroit, it's kind of a badge of honor to see how much beer you can drink by the time you're out of the womb. You know, so,
all those Western Pennsylvania, all that whole, sort of the steel belt.
Yeah, and that goes back to the work thing, that you're working so hard that you want to reward yourself, and you go to the bar every day and you do your thing. And so I, drinking from 13 years old on and until I was 30 or whatever it was, that when the mustard seed started, that's when I stopped, before I got married. But it wasn't like I had any bottom thing happen, but I knew that you just don't drink and get in your car and drive. And I was miraculously saved from drunk driving tickets or, God forbid, hurting some innocent person. Yeah. But, everybody has their thing where they go, I got to stop. And I remember my thing was stopping with that. I mean, if we're getting personal, and I don't mind getting personal at all, it's just that I remember it was just like, why am I doing this? Why am I getting hungover, and why do I feel bad? And I remember praying about it, and it went away in a second. It was super, super easy. And I next week would go to bars with my friends, and I just didn't want to drink anymore. It just was miraculously removed, because I thought maybe I was an alcoholic, and I just, because I like to drink. I would only drink on the weekends with my friends. I'd never drank by myself or anything like that. It just kind of went away really easily. What didn't go away super easy was girls, and the feeling of needing to be wanted and coveted, and even pornography. Growing up, from 12 years old, I was around that crap big time.
Sure.
And that was the struggle where I could say that you're looking at the devil's face going, you're never going to get over this. And how do you get into healthy marriage when you're holding on to something like that.
Yeah.
Because you always, whether you're, whatever you're doing, you're hiding the truth from the people you love. And I knew someday I'd have to deal with that, and I didn't think it was possible. And that was a little bit more difficult, but that was a miraculous thing too. To this day, the most miraculous thing in my life that I've seen God work through is just removing that in an instant too, even though it took a couple of years and stuff. So anything's possible with that stuff. It's just whether you want to do it or not. And that's,
sure.
And so I'm kind of veering off from the point, but it wasn't like any rock bottom thing like that. It was kind of a need to just want to be a better guy, It's
funny. Somebody once said, I bit my nails really badly from the time I was like 5 to, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I had mentioned this I was out with my buddy and his wife, and I happened to say that. And she said, Craig, it takes a lifetime to stop doing something, and it takes a minute to stop doing something. And I was like, yeah, that was pretty, it's funny how when you think of it like that, right? It's like,
Yeah, it goes both ways too, right? You could start something so fast you don't even, life is funny, man. I mean, you got to really think about what you're doing and what you're doing to other people, because, any one of those days you could have been driving and then you just didn't see something when you're, and it's bad enough when you're texting and driving, but being drunk and driving and it could have been horrible.
Oh man, yeah. You mentioned something earlier. Again, if you don't want to talk about this, it's cool. You said,
I'm not talking about my underwear
or your toenails. You said, sorry, everybody listen. This is just there's a story in there. You said earlier, God has a plan for my life. So can I ask you a question about that? Because can I? Yeah. Because when you said it I'm not a religious guy at all. We had this conversation. But when you said that, it struck me two ways. It's getting dark here. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Not that that's like a highlight of this, a highlight of well, I hope people aren't tuning in for that.
I can see it loud and clear.
It struck me two ways. The one thing it struck me is like, wow, if that's a belief, that really makes rough patches in your journey a little easier. On the one hand, right? On the other hand, it's like, does that mean it's taking away your responsibility? Because I firmly believe that a lot of times that stuff happens to us, we have a role in it. Sometimes you don't. You get sick, assuming you didn't abuse your body or whatever. That's not your fault. Somebody, a loved one dies. That's not your fault. But a lot of times, we just make stupid decisions and shit catches up with us. It doesn't have to be drugs. Anything, could be you're neglecting fixing your tire or something like that and you get into an accident. So I just wanted to get like your thoughts on that. On the one hand, it makes it easy because if you're saying that God has a plan for me, well, or whatever, God represents to whoever's listening to this, versus, how much of that is just taking it off of you. I just was curious. I want to get your thoughts on. I'm not questioning you. I want your thoughts really on my question about this. Really.
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and we're on a guitar show talking about things that I think are more important than guitar. God bless the guitar, God bless the bass, but what is it all anyway?
Right.
What is this whole thing about? And for me, it's kind of like this. 50-50, right? There either is a God that really runs everything, that really is truth, or there isn't. And if there isn't, then you live your life, you die, and there's nothing after. So there's really no reason to be accountable. There's no really reason to not just do anything you want and you could be selfish. I have tons of atheist friends that are probably better Christian living people than some Christians that I know.
Sure.
But if it is true, if God made everything and there's a plan for our lives after we die, that means when we die, we go to heaven to be with God forever. If there's any chance of that being true, I want that. And I challenge anybody, even my best atheist friends, the question of, if it could be true, wouldn't you want that at the end of your life when you die? You're going to go someplace to be with your family, to be with people you loved, or to be with, more importantly, to be with God forever. That your life here, 50, 60, 70, 80, 10 years, whatever it is, that there is a plan for that, that you're just not built to just be successful here and to make music and to write a few good songs and to be famous and everything that comes with that. Because, I mean, I've been blessed to work with really talented, famous people, you know, and it always comes to the same thing, that no matter how successful you are, once you start being successful, you always want to be successful and you always want to outdo your next record. And
if you're driven, yeah,
you're driven. And most,
yeah, you don't get there by not being driven. It's not random, like, oh, this lazy, SOB became a superstar. Yeah.
100% of the people that I've worked with that are successful are driven to the max, because you can't do it without that.
Yeah.
And every person I've worked with, like Rick Springfield, amazingly talented guy. He works harder than anybody I've ever seen. He goes out on the stage and he's pretty much on the ground by the end of the show. But when I look at my life, I go, I'm a musician that has played with famous people. I'm not giving that 110 drop dead every night. I'm playing on a stage with somebody, supporting that person, because Rick is a rock star. Dave's and Joe, Elton, these guys are rock stars, and they're just different than most of us. They want to fulfill every night like it's the last show of their life. And I'm just looking at, I'm Elton's 72, 73 years old. He'll play something. He plays it different every night, every show. He plays every song differently. He'll play a lick and he'll look at me and I'll go, that was really good. He needs me to tell him that he's great, that he's doing a great job. And I'm like going, well, that kicks my butt, because I should be doing the same thing. I should be giving it everything I have, and all these guys have earned what they have because they are rock stars,
Yeah.
But when I look at that too, I also go, at the end of that, there's that famous story, then what? So the guy grows up and goes, what do you want to be? I want to be a artist. Then what? Well, then I want to be known by everybody. Then what? Then I want to have a family and have people, then what? Then what? All the way down the line till I'm 90 years old, and then I die. And then what? That's the question for me. Then what? And the life I'm living now, I can't see any other way than there's a hand of God that's making me, first of all, being even able to have 5 fingers and being able to play music, because I really shouldn't, because I'm not smart enough. It just happened. And then all these jobs that have come, all these things that line up.
I buy that. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, man. You just left. I was just so wide open, man. I had to
wide open. But I mean, for me, it just, the 50-50 thing is on God's side, because I just can't see it any other way. So I just think that we're all, you can say it's old fashioned and nowadays it's tough to talk about it, but I really believe what the Bible says, that from Adam and Eve all the way down, we're born as sinful people that are trying to not be sinful people. It's not like we're born great and that it's easy. The first thing a baby says is mine, 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 mine. Why is that? We're born with selfishness. We have to fight to not be selfish. We have to learn to get along with people. So it's not natural. So this life we have, however long it is, we spend our time, in my view, trying to be good people, only because God is, you're accountable to God, that makes you want to be a better person. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's kind of how I look at it.
No, I was just, you did answer. I was curious what your viewpoint was on that, because all this is I find it, huh? No, I find it really interesting. And I'm always looking for ways to be, in a sense, less accountable, because I think for me, I put too much accountability on myself, which is a weird thing in the sense of sometimes shit just happens.
Right. Well, you know what? I was just reading about this yesterday. Um, if God is real, you really don't have anything to worry about. Because you can only be so responsible. You can only dot so many I's to do
Right.
what it is. And the whole purpose of Jesus was, he says, I came here to forgive you because you can't be perfect. You know, I like that because I am not perfect.
Yeah, right. None of
I
us are.
need forgiveness. And it's a daily thing, man. You're married for 25 years. You don't not know how to say you're sorry or forgive me. You need that. And I need to get off my pedestal of thinking that I'm perfect and learn that I'm not. And I think that helps me with what you're talking about, because
Yeah.
I know, you know, stuff happens to you. Stuff happens to everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What you do with that. And I think with God, having a relationship with God, it takes the seriousness off of not performing 100% all the times, having an off time where I don't do the right thing, but to identify what you do and, you know, be forgiven about it. I mean, being forgiven is a big thing. I mean, you forgive mostly for yourself because,
Right.
you know, you don't want to hold that stuff. People die of cancer from unforgiveness, you know, and so I think I kind of get what you're saying, and I think that by having a relationship with God, it's taken the pressure off of me of trying to do everything on my own.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Yeah, it seems like that's like if as long as you're given 110%, and like you just say, well, you're not being willful on the outcome, sort of, you know.
Oh, yeah, man. I have no control over the outcome of pretty
Yeah.
much 9%
Right.
of things. And when they do happen for the good, I'm pleasantly surprised. You know, low expectations, that whole thing, you know.
Sure.
His son getting drafted. I mean, he got passed over his junior year of college, and I pretty much said, he really wants this. I want to see my son do something he wants to do.
Yeah.
When he got passed over the first year, it was the toughest year for me because I'm thinking next year the same thing's going to happen, and he's going to be a senior. What's going to happen? God, are you not, you know, honoring our wishes for our son to play? What's wrong with you, God? Why aren't you answering everything I ask of you? You know, it makes you go to that level because you're just human. You know, you want your kid to do well. And when he did get drafted, it was like somebody just poured an ice cream sundae on my life and just said, you get this too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, you can't determine outcome. You can just put the work in and hope for the best.
Right. Right. And that's what I've kind of learned. I've kind of surrendered a lot of that over the last few years. And it is,
I mean, what else are you going to do? What else can you do?
right. And it's just been I find it's been a lot easier, and it's a difficult, but it's been easier in the sense of, you know, like I'm only responsible for my end, sort of, you know, and that's all I could be held accountable for. And I think I tended to put unrealistic accountability on myself. You know, I can't be responsible for the consequences. I could just be responsible for what I do, you know, and if it doesn't work out, or if something doesn't happen I want, you know, that's it, man. You got to move on.
Sounds like you're right where you should be. I mean, that's what more can you do?
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for going down that road. I want to switch back to music. Funny enough, I'm going to mention a few guys. You already talked about Rick. How did you get the gig with them? And can you talk about a cool or interesting story about working with them? Let's talk about Ringo.
Well, real quick, getting back to Rick before then.
Yeah.
I remember when the Mustard Seeds, we were going like 92 to 98, something like that. And when we split up, we all kind of went our ways to work and do whatever we could. And I remember my brother and I auditioned for Don Henley, and we were going to get the gig, and then something happened at the last minute where we didn't do it. And then the bass player for Don, they got the gig with Don, was playing with Rick Springfield, and he told me about Rick's gig, so they called me and I went out with Rick. And then I played in Rick's band for 12 years, whatever, and we got to be really good friends, and we produced and co-produced like 3 records together that were some of the best music I think I've ever done in my life. And it was awesome. But at that time,
So interrupt you 1 second. Was George playing with him then?
Well, first of all, George, you know, like we all do. I remember there was a year when the Mustard Seeds broke up that we just had my son, he was 2 years old, and I'm going, what am I, I was making $150 a week total for supporting the family. So I would do drum cartridges for my brother, and I'd make $250. I'd show up to sessions with musicians who I played with ever since I moved to LA, and they go, oh, I didn't know you were on this. And I'm going, well, I'm setting up my brother's drums. You know? Wow. So that's what I mean, man. You have to humble yourself.
I give you credit to do. I mean, I would have done the same thing, man. You got to eat. You got to support a family. I'd do anything I have to do, but
I could get
good on you.
With Elton, I could be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have a problem putting the Lyft Uber thing on my car and driving people.
Yeah.
As long as I'm doing my job and supporting my family. That was a tough time for my ego, but it was another adversity thing that was good for me.
Yeah.
Even though I was probably making more money than some of these guys that were playing the sessions, you know.
Right.
I remember in August lugging up the drums and stuff like that. I didn't really know what I was doing. George was doing the same thing with Rick. He started out being
he told me that. By the way, for people listening, I'm talking about George Bernhardt. He played with Rick Springfield. I interviewed him a while ago. Great guy, great interview. So check it out.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm sorry, man.
Doug and George, and I mean, Doug's done the same thing. He's gone on to playing his guitar, but he's also got into the music business of placements and stuff like
Licensing,
that.
Yeah.
He's always been brilliant at that stuff, and I was always telling him, man, you got to use these gifts, you know. And so George was doing the teching with Rick, and then Dave Whiston, the guitar player, left to do something else, and then George took over, and he played with them for a while. We had a band with George Bernhardt, Roger Carter, the drummer for Rick, and me called the Squirts, and we would open up for Rick.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember he told me that.
Our CDs and stuff. It would be kind of like a glorified sound check for Rick. So then we came up there, you know, and so yeah, George would play guitar on all three of those records, and it was just a great relationship with Rick. He's a great guy, and just amazing. So, but when I was with Rick, sometimes Rick would take some time off. He took the first time off to do the show in Vegas, and then I started recording with Joe again, and started doing. And I got to do like 4 or 5 more records with Joe while I was playing with Rick, kind of moonlighting. And Lance would come back and play bass sometimes with Rick. And it was great with Rick because I could do other gigs. And that's when.
Funny how that works. You went from doing cartage and like barely scraping by. Now you're on Satriani's gig. You're on Rick's. Crazy, isn't it?
Role because it went while I was with Rick. I did 3 or 4 tours with Joe, 3 or 4 records. We did the ELO thing. And then we did the Ringo thing. So with Ringo, he had a band called Ringo and the Roundheads with Mark Hudson. He was the musical director, and he was working in sessions with Greg. And then he put us in the band. So we would do the Jay Leno shows, Conan, and all that stuff when Ringo would have a new album. And then we did a live DVD called Ringo and the Roundheads, which is all over YouTube and stuff. So with Rick, it was the perfect gig because I started doing all this other stuff. You know, and it all kind of worked out, and Rick wasn't bummed when I'd go off and do that. And then we started doing more records together with Rick. And then around that time, we were traveling so much with Rick. And this is another crazy thing. I remember I was just getting kind of fried, and I kind of wanted to do something else. As much as I liked playing with Rick, it was just kind of just wanted to do something else. And I remember going into my bedroom, getting on my knees and praying, God, can you give me some gig that I could make a bunch of money on and just do something different for a while. And I don't want to be called to playing Green Day because I don't want to be like Moses there. I want a gig, and I don't want to be the oldest guy. That's all.
There's a lot of requirements you got there, Matt. That's a big request to be fulfilled.
55 years old or whatever I was at the time. I mean, there's not that many gigs where you're not the oldest guy. So then lo and behold, a couple weeks later, our good friend Bob Birch passed away, and they called me and they said, we want you to do this gig. I didn't have to audition, didn't do anything. It just kind of worked. I was at Davy Johnstone's house, and he just goes, I want you to do this. And I got the gig with Elton, and I was the youngest guy in the band.
There you go, man.
So the power of prayer, I mean, I can't say enough about it. And it's kind of weird to say this story, being that one of my good friends that I grew up with in Detroit, Bob Birch, passed away.
Sure.
But I have a feeling, and I talked to his wife right when it happened, right when he died, and she said he would want you to do this gig, you know. So
that's great.
Felt a little weird at first. I learned got the tape from his last show, from Bob's last show, wrote out every lick he played, paid some guys to write it out, and I learned exactly what he played to make it easy for these guys transitioning who were grieving Bob's death, tried to just come in there and make it as much as normal could be for them. And crazy thing, the first show we played, Elton was looking at me, looking behind me, he had this terrified look on his face. And he told me, he goes, when you were playing, I saw Bob's ghost behind you.
Wow.
Like, well,
probably because you had gotten all those licks down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly the real reason. I had a picture of Bob on his bass because I just used his basses and tried to make it so that the show would go on. And by the third show, Elton called me and said, appreciate everything that you're doing. You sound great. Just play whatever you want to play, because this is a new thing. And that's the thing with Elton. He's always into some other new music and into something else. He just goes, just play what you want. Just gave me the green light to just do whatever I wanted. And in almost 8 years of being with him, he's only told me 2 things. He goes, just play a little bit less on this song, Take Me to the Pilot. And
I love that song, man.
Yeah.
That's old Elton. I love that.
Yeah, and that's that and one other song. And I mean, come on, man, to have Elton,
to have that kind of freedom.
Yeah, and it's not like he's going to go every day, you sounded great, man, you fantastic. But the pat on the back with him is that you're still in the band.
Yeah.
The next day, there's not somebody else taking your place. So, yeah.
That's freaking awesome, man. Frampton. I didn't know you were out with Frampton.
Well, I never toured with Peter. Around that time with Dave, after I left Dave, I was writing a lot still with Polygram, and they put us 2 together to write through Myron Grombacher, the drummer from Pat Benatar. So we jammed and we wrote some songs and stuff like that, but we never toured together. But it kind of always shows up in WikiLeaks or whatever it is.
Wikipedia. Julian Lennon.
Yeah, I did. Bob Ezrin produced his record with Saltwater and Help Yourself, I think the album was called. So we recorded for a month and got to hang out with him. We'd go play darts at the British pub and stuff. And just one of those things where it was like a month hangout, then I never saw him again. You know? Was
Steve Hunter on that record as well?
I met Steve when he was helping Jason out from doing Dave Lee Roth's record. We were in a hotel in Vancouver doing the record, and Jason had just got diagnosed with a disease. And Steve is a doctor, you know, he administers shots. He's, you know, a brilliant guy. And he would play the parts that Jason couldn't get his fingers around because he was starting to, his fingers were going on and stuff like that. So I remember being in my hotel room, and I remember looking, I was right across the hall from Jason, and Jason was just sitting there with a needle. He had to put it in his side, and he just couldn't get the guts up to do it, you know. And I remember that's when things just started spiraling for Jason. And I remember Steve would give him shots. Yeah. And we'd all be kind of hanging around with him. And Steve, I think Steve did play on that record. Yeah.
With Julian. Yeah. Cause I know he played with Julian. He was he learned all that in the service. He was like a doctor in the service. He was actually an X-ray tech, I think is what it was, but he did a lot of other stuff. Man. Awesome dude.
Man, great guy.
Yeah. Awesome dude. Hey, what are the top 3 experiences, if you could even answer that you've had musically, and for any reason at all? It could be, you know, doesn't have to be a big gig or, you know, whatever, just something 3 things that come to your mind right away.
I talked about this one thing on some other stuff. I remember one thing, Maynard taught this major lesson one time. We were playing, you know, we were 20 years old on the road with Maynard. We're out on the road, kind of figuring it out. And then one night we played in Cincinnati at Riverfront Stadium at this jazz festival. It was like 50,000 people there.
That's massive.
Yeah.
Riverfront. That's where the Reds play.
Yeah. It was awesome. And we were just like playing and just going, wow, people are loving us. This is so great, you know? And then we got on a bus and we drove to Denver or something. I think it was up someplace in the mountains in Colorado. And it was snowing like crazy. We barely got up the hill. We got to the gig. It was so snowed out that there was only like 25 people there. Nobody could get to the 25 people there. And we were all kind of going, oh man, you know, we played Riverfront Stadium last night. We were like, you know, the stuff. And, you know, and Maynard was watching us, and he pulled a meeting and he goes, guys, you guys just played Riverfront Stadium in front of all these people, and you did a good job. But this is the show that we're going to sound the greatest on, because we're going to play for these people. And this is going to be the best night. And it was. we played for these 25 people and they loved it. And we were just playing amazing that night. And Ron Pedley, the piano player, and I looked at each other and go, that is a lesson that a guy he was 65 years old at the time or whatever, has been playing all these places, done all these experiences. And he realized he could tell in his troops that they were grumbling and already getting a little whacked up the ladder about, self-perception and stuff. That was an amazing thing to this day when I play. I played a gig a couple of years ago with this girl singer and her name is Yvonne Perea, really talented singer. And I was so tired just from different things that I remember I was sitting on a stool and I was playing, and then I kind of nodded off and I had drool flying down and the drummer's just looking at me laughing. And he started playing and he nudged me with the stick and I look up at him and it's like coming down. I'm going, I don't ever want to get that comfortable. If I'm not tired, I shouldn't be there. But the thing with Maynard really made me kind of realize that he goes, you're not playing so much for the people, you're playing for each other. You're playing as the band and you need to be there for each other, And that's something like with a band like Kansas, I saw the documentary on them and everybody did their job, everybody played their part. Nobody went off every night playing, check me out, check my licks out. It was like this organized greatness of every piece fits, when you're writing and you have a song like Carry On My Wayward Son, those parts are there, You just don't jam because you feel like it, So that's all kind of that Maynard lesson of you just play for each other and it's a team, As far as other experiences, there's been so many things that I can't really. I know I had a list that you gave me, and I was trying to wing it and stuff. I'm not really, things are popping in my head, but there's just been millions of little things like that.
That's cool, man. Very, very cool.
I didn't do my homework. Sorry.
No, it's all good, man. There's no homework. No homework at all. Is there any advice if you had to go and look back? Advice that you would have given your younger self that would have made your life easier, professionally, personally, any areas you want?
I would have, like when I talk to young people that even want to know or want to have a conversation, for me, I would have started writing way earlier. And I would have, now kids are playing guitar, bass, drums, everything themselves. They got the Pro Tools stuff, but they don't have the experience that we had. There's not that much experience to go out and play as there was back then. I'd probably tell myself, practice more, but I feel pretty good about balance. I think the main thing in life is balance. You can't just be a great musician and a crappy person or vice versa. You got to have things that are more important than music and which there are, and you got to find those things and do those things so that it makes music more enjoyable, So I would just say, if I could have learned to sing and write earlier, that probably would have helped me to be more successful with that. And it's a lot more fun writing songs than just playing bass or just playing guitar or anything. And learning, I play a little bit of guitar on my songs and stuff, and I wish I could have done that a little bit earlier. And I wish in life in general, I hadn't wasted years just drinking and carousing and doing stupid stuff that, when you go to a bar when you're a kid, you're spending 6 hours a night trying to pick up girls and you're going, that's 6 hours of your life.
Yeah, I know that you don't think of that at the time. That's like if someone told you that age, hey, you should put money in an IRA.
Right.
It's just not something that you could process, you can't compute. It does not compute at that
those
point.
Are things that are gone now and you can't take them back, but
yeah.
Do it again, I probably not a whole lot I do differently because I'm however you get to where you are is because of where you've gone through. So
yeah. Desert Island. Oh no, favorite guitar players that you've enjoyed playing with. Don't have to be the best, just favorites that you've enjoyed playing with.
Well, Joe always comes to mind because he can do anything. He did the what was the band Joe played? Deep Purple. He'd go out and play with Deep Purple, then he'd go out and, Joe was great because it wasn't like he wrote songs. I know you guys talked about this a little bit on the podcast. He wouldn't just write songs and play a different solo every night. He'd play the exact solo from the record.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go see a band and you go hear your favorite song and the guy is riffing on the hook of the song, you're going, I came here, paid money to hear that song. You know,
Right.
you forget that sometimes as a musician because you think that people want to hear what you have to offer about how your vocabulary is and you can play stuff, when really people want to just hear what the song is. That's what Joe does with these difficult solos. I mean, he really taught me about, you just don't wing it, because you could get lost in the middle of a solo of his solos because they're so crazy. So his musicologist outlook on everything, he kind of taught me that everything has its place, you know, that team thing of, you know, when I record with Joe, I wouldn't just jam, I would just play what the song needed, you know. I love playing with Joe. I love playing with Steve Vai. He's great. You know, for that kind of guitar playing, there, you know, I don't think there's anybody better. Then there's guys like guys that I've played top 40 bands with. I remember playing with Dwayne Bailey, who later on went to play with Chicago. We're playing top 40 clubs and just singing and playing. And I really love guitar players that can sing and play. And you know, guys like John Jurgensen, Davey Johnstone from Elton's band. Davey plays stuff when we're in the studio with Elton that I don't think anybody else could ever play, because he knows Elton so much that he knows weird tunings, you know, just amazing amount of tunings and different things, you know, guys, and just guys that have music vocabulary. I mean, you know, Doug and George, you know, just amazing guitar players and singers and just great guys, you know. So, I mean, there's a countless amount of guys I could go on for days, and I know we don't have that long, unless you want to call me back.
No. Desert Island Discs. What's your top three? Just give me your knee-jerk reaction for right now. Desert Island Discs, like, you know, favorite records, 3 favorite records. Just for now. I mean, this could, you know, obviously this could change in 20 minutes.
It could. Well, my first solo album, no, just kidding.
That was great.
I remember album covers mostly from opening them up at Christmas back in Detroit. I remember getting the Boston album with Smoking on it.
Yeah, it was a good record, man.
That album killed me when I first got it. Then there's like certain jazz records, like Chick Corea Friends. That album, still play it all the time. A lot of jazz records like that. And then probably Kansas, you know, probably the original one with Carry On My Wayward Son.
Left Overture?
Yeah, Left Overture. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good record.
Yeah, I mean, those are the first 3 that pop in my mind. I mean, for me, it's kind of hard to answer that question because there's certain pockets of time, because I grew up on jazz, rock, fusion, funk, everything at the same time. It kind of, that question I could answer is, what was my top 3 funk records or 3?
Sure.
You know, and you know, it's kind of hard to, it's like your ugly sister picking your, whatever that saying goes.
No, it is. It's ridiculously tough.
Then why'd you ask it?
Because you're a tough guy and you can rise up to the occasion, Matt. Most important thing you've learned, or most important things you've learned about yourself?
Definitely not to take myself too seriously, and that humility through experience and through things in life has taught me that to never expect too much. When you do that, you never get disappointed, and just stay focused on the job. You know, like one thing I do like about myself is that it's a funny way to say it, is just seeing a job. Like I'm doing some vocals upstairs here. We're in Big Bear, California right now, and our house is being sold. So I brought up all my gear here because I can't sing in a hotel room that we're staying in. So I've got to sing some songs for this friend of mine, David Wallerstein, who has a band, and I'm singing lead vocals with Simon Phillips, the drummer.
Oh, wow.
So I brought my stuff up there and singing upstairs, but it's really hard because it's like 20-part harmony stuff and lead vocals and everything, and it takes like 8 hours to do it. And I know today when we get done, I'm going to go up there and go, this is the job. By 9 o'clock tonight, I have to get these vocals done. And it's hard work and singing everything and punching yourself in on the computer. But I know when I get it done, that work ethic of Detroit will be, you did your job. So when I got my check, I go, I worked my butt off for this, but this is what you get for this, and this is what you get for that. And you don't get that unless you do the work, you know? So Yeah.
So you like your work ethic?
I like having a job to do, and I like doing a job that somebody tells you you did a great job, and the money I spent on you was
Yeah.
well spent. You serve your boss. I mean, it's the chain of command. I mean, I serve God. I want God to say to me at the end of my life, the famous saying, "Well done, faithful servant." I want to get a check from Joe Satriani that he's not giving to me going, thanks, man. It's not what I wanted. I want Joe. I'm really happy to give you this check.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it's about. You do your job and you want to serve your boss. That's kind of my thing.
Flip side, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would that be?
I don't know, man. I'm just really happy that I'm not a rock star. I'm really happy that I'm not the center of attention all the time. And my line is, in my life, I just want to be famously unknown, where people kind of respect you and they know who you are, but you're not at a restaurant where somebody comes up and asks you to sign their face, or something that, because the people that I do work with that are super famous, it's a chore, man, and it takes your life and it takes away a lot. I mean, sure, it's great for a lot of things, but it's difficult to be that, and so I'm thankful for the path that I was on and where I am, and that I can do whatever I want when I want to. So there's not a whole lot I would want to change, besides taking back some of the stupid things and hurting people when I've done, things that I've done that I can't,
Yeah.
You can only ask for forgiveness and move on and try and make recommends with those people while you're still here, find those people that you've wronged and tell them you're sorry. And most of the time they don't even remember what you did.
Yeah, man. They have no clue. I had it's funny you say that, man. I was mean to this girl when I was a kid, a girl of all things. How pathetic is that? And she contacted me on Facebook, and I said, hey, she said, oh, nice to see you. I said, listen, I really just want to apologize to you. I said, I was kind of mean to you. And she said, that's really, I said, but I had some stuff going on at home. It was not an excuse, but I'm just telling you that, I wasn't in a good place. So I'm really sorry. And she said, it wasn't, I never even thought of it, but thank you. It's very kind of you. It was like, but I for me, I felt like a weight of the world lifted on my shoulders. It was like,
I was at my son's game last year. Josh used to play on Baylor, and they played Oklahoma in Baylor, and I always sit behind home plate, and I have my own spot so that I could because I only could see my son in certain times because I've been on the road, and I would just sit there. The parents kind of knew to kind of leave this guy alone. Suck the time as much as I can, and I was sitting there by myself, nobody around me, and this Oklahoma fan, older guy, comes in, sitting next to me, just whistling and strike that bum out, and just kind of going off in his southern drawl, and I can't really move from this guy, and my son's coming to bat next. My son comes up and strikes out, and the guy stands up and goes, sit down, man, sit down, put your butt on the bench. And I'm like, and I grabbed him, and I go,
yeah, you got to say, yeah.
I go, what's your problem, man? This isn't even your field. He goes, well, what's your problem? And we went at it, didn't do anything weird, but I said, man, you got a lot of nerve, kind of got mad at him. And I walked away, and he walked away. And next day, we're playing the same team, and he's sitting down in the front. And I hear this voice, and that's how I know there's a God, because this doesn't make any sense in the world. And I would say the Holy Spirit tapped me on the shoulder, and he goes, you walk over to that guy and apologize. And I go, but I don't want to. It was his fault. He was a jerk. I don't care. I want you to go apologize. I'm going, no, I'm not going to do that. Sure, I'm looking at my feet, and I'm walking towards the guy. And I tapped him on the shoulder, and he looked at me like super scared and super mad. And I just go, man, I'm so sorry about that. I was having a tough day. My son was, having a tough day. Guy starts crying. He goes, I felt so bad about this for 24 hours. I've been thinking about it all night.
Wow.
And thank you for saying that. And that's
so you hugged it out, and that was it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's good, man.
And you can, walk away from that stuff before you apologize and stuff it in yourself and go, I'll forget that happened, but it did happen.
Yeah.
And you never know your effect. Maybe that guy could eventually go and die or kill themselves over that situation. I mean, you never know the way people.
Yeah.
You never know what your effect is on people. So whenever you can, just try and make that right, you know. But I mean, when the guy crying, I was like, you made me cry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow. So everybody make sure that you irritate Matt if you see him, because you have a moment the next day together.
It won't take much to irritate me.
Hey man, I got to tell you, I would have done the same thing. I don't know if I would have said, hey, listen, man, that's my son, you know, can you just back off? You know, that it was totally called for. I mean, that was just rude. You
just don't know what you're capable of until a situation happens, and you're amazed at how brilliant you can act, and you can really, really do things that you so bad you can't imagine. You know, I mean, like my dog, we were at home and he got taken by a coyote right in front of me.
Oh my God!
Dragged across the street, and I chased him down and caught him and saved him. Right, this guy from the coyote. Coyote started coming after me, and I lost who I was and became the superhero for about 20 seconds. And my wife was just saying she saw me running up the street, and I don't even remember any of it besides after it was done, I broke my ankle chasing him. I'm in the hospital going, shaking, and it's kind of like, you know, you're getting the adrenaline's wearing off.
Yeah.
Going, what did I just do? That same thing can happen in a bad way where you just react. You know, I'm sure a lot of murderers didn't know they were going to do that when they woke up, and it just, things happen, you know.
Man, it's funny you say that. I saw this special on Netflix. It took place in England. It's called Just One Punch. It's like a short little documentary about that these people just went off the cuff and they killed somebody.
And the rest of your life is
destroyed.
We're talking about guitars here.
Matt, three more questions, and I could talk to you all night, man. You're just awesome. You have any hobbies outside of music or interests?
I love coming up to Big Bear and walking around in the forest and wrestling bears and all that stuff, and just forcing myself to get away from the hamster wheel. You know, I love doing work, but I love trying to balance it out with other things. I mean, I love sports, playing anything, tennis and softball now because I'm older. I can't play baseball. Playing softball and any kind of sport, doing stuff like that. I love going to see when I'm on the road. I love seeing movies, you know, and just going, like when we were in Europe for 3 months, I try and walk 15 to 20 miles a day, probably 10 to 15 miles a day.
That's great, man. Just
try and keep moving. You know, I mean, you get older, you see these guys in the park with the whole Tai Chi thing or whatever they're doing. It's a lesson that you just got to keep moving. So I always find the farthest movie theater I could and then walk there, watch the movie, eat the popcorn and the Coke that you just burned from the walk, and turn around and come back. So you have a destination, you have a point to get to, and a goal for that day. Because on the road with Elton now, it's like we have a lot of days off, and you can just sit in your room or you can move around. You know, keep moving. Anything to do with, you know, just talking to people, you know, and hanging out with people and trying to be a good guy. Try to finish strong.
You're doing all right, man.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you. Working at it. Toughest decision you've had to make or most difficult thing you've had to do?
You know, if I had read the list and consumed it, I'd have a pat answer for that. Lazy and disgruntled. Hardest decision.
Yeah. Toughest decision you've had to make or most difficult thing you've had to do?
Oh, boy. Besides
answer these questions.
Oh man, you know, a bunch of things popped to my mind because there's a lot of things that, you know, I remember when the mustard seed, I had it in my life, in my mind that after I was out on the road with Joe, Greg and I came back to LA and we were going to start our own band, the Mustard Seeds. And Greg made it about a year and then he was like, I can't do this anymore. It's just too tough to just do one thing. Because when you're in a band, you can't, if you're really going to be, you know, at the time the Mustard Seeds happened, the grunge thing happened. And here we are, this band of guys that love to play and learn their instruments. And now, and there's harmonies, there's like King's X harmonies. King's X was a huge favorite of us. And we wanted to be like that and be proficient in what we played. But then music changed on a dime.
Yeah.
everything that came out of LA was lame. You know, it's like, it has to be from this area or this area. And grunge is great. I mean, it's amazing, but it's a whole spirit of music that's different than we were at. And we knocked our heads for 10 years with that band, trying to become like everything. And we had a great time doing it, and it was fun. And it was just hard work. I remember when the band finally went its own way, you kind of realize, okay, now I'm married, I have a kid, and I need to be responsible and start joining the workforce. And I remember trying to get a job at FedEx. They said, well, show up at 5 a.m. I'm like, nah, that ain't gonna work. You know? I know I have to make money with my instrument because that's all I can do. That's all I really know to do. So I think it was really hard to just kind of come to terms with, I'm not going to just write songs and be in a band that I want to be proud of. I'm going to have to do a little bit of everything, which has worked out great because I've got to have a bunch of different relationships with bands. And looking back now, I go, maybe that was the plan all along. You know, I mean, the main thing with the Mustard Seeds was it made me a better writer, and it made me learn how to write with other people and to coexist with them, and, you know, made me a better person. So I can't think of anything that was like devastating that would make me, you know, change course or do anything differently, you know. So I'm grateful for that.
And I just want to tell everybody listening, if you haven't checked out the Mustard Seeds, this is just a phenomenal, the level of musicianship, the level of writing, the mastering, the engineering. I mean, it's just freaking, I mean, first class. This is unusual to have that high.
Awful nice of you to say that.
Oh man, it's that high proficiency level.
We were kind of a victim at the time of not having budgets or anything. We did the first record on our little 12 track, you know, 8-track put together, and we'd engineered ourselves. And I don't know what I'm doing with that stuff. George is really good at it.
Yeah, George, I remember. Yeah.
George is brilliant at that stuff. But it was just strange timing with that band, you know, and just music and everything changed. And I listened back to the records, and I'm really proud of them, and just every song brings back some memory, and just grateful to be in a band like that with such great guys.
Oh, just first class, proficient. I mean, and not just proficient technically, really melodic, great writing, man. It was just phenomenal. Really good stuff, man.
That means a lot. Maybe it's all for that. We would always tell ourselves, you know, if we could change one life, all that work would be worth it. And
there you did.
And you never know with anything you do anyway, but looking back now, I'm just so glad we did it. You know?
Yeah. And if you ever, I would love that Mustard Seeds 4, man. We launch it right on this show, man. That would be awesome. And last question. And man, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed talking to you. You're a wonderful guy. You're very warm and sincere. And I really appreciate all of those things about you. So thank you.
I love you, man. I want to come through that comment on the noggin. Doug told me about the show a while ago, and I was kind of going, he goes, you should do the show. And I was going, well, you know, I'm a bass player. It's a guitar show, and I mean, it's got strings and everything. But sometimes I look at my life, and I don't really have anything that's interesting that I really feel like I want to, that's really anybody would want to listen to, because it's really just the normal life. You know, I mean, it's gone through ups and downs and different curves and stuff, and I'm very thankful for my life. But sometimes, I mean, I get off of social media just because I can't, like, for your for your webpage, it's like, you try and make it sound like someone else is writing about it. Well, Matt Bissonette went out on the road with blah, blah, blah. And you're really going, I'm really writing that about myself, even though you're paying someone to do it. And representing yourself like that, it's always kind of been odd to me. Like, you know, I'm very thankful for the life that I've had and the way that it's gone. But to me, it doesn't seem like any different story than anybody else. So it's kind of like, why would I want to go on a show and tell people about what they've gone? You know, everyone's gone through their thing, you know. But when Danny told me about it too, he said, you should do it. And I was like, and I watched, you know, listened to your show a few times, and it was really cool. And I didn't want to, you know, hopefully people listen to it and get something out of it.
No, of course they will. Are you kidding me? Everybody's got a unique story. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's path is different. We're all kind of the same, but how everybody's affected, I think, is different. And it's really inspiring to hear, you know, the things that also move, for me anyway. Yeah. And I think for a lot of listeners, it's inspiring to hear the different things that move different people. And I think there's always something, with rare exception, that someone can relate to, because we're all you know what? Look, we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to get through the day, get some crap off our plate, maybe be a better person, be less of a jerk, you know?
Well, God bless you for doing the show, man. It's a great show, and you have great people on it, and it's like a community. That's what we are as a community.
Yeah. It's a really great community, man. That's exactly what it is. It's a community, man. It's exactly what it is. It's awesome. But you're not going to get away from answering this last question. So let me ask you, biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, Matt, and how much of this has been intentional and how much is just a natural part of aging?
Well, I mean, I've always been kind of a jokester and kind of a wacky guy and stuff. And life has a way of possibly beating it out of you if you don't fight it. So I am trying as much as I can to not hyper focus on little details in life, because there's always one more detail, you know, especially moving like we are. You got to be kidding me. You know, it's like always one more thing, you know, and I had a point in my head, and I'm getting older now. Things are flying out, but it's really about, I know what it is. I heard a sermon the other day. This guy, Chuck Smith, who was an amazing pastor, said, joy and peace isn't something that should come and go. What comes and goes is happiness because of events that happen through the day. You know, like there's a guy who buys a new car. I'm so happy that I just bought this car. Oh no, I just slammed my car against the railing and now I have to have AAA come and get it. Now I'm bummed out. But now the insurance company is giving me more money than I have. I'm happy now. But now I have to buy a new car and I'm sad now. I mean, it's a constant up and down with life. And I think that peace that God gives you, which is the default, I think that he wants us to have, is no matter your circumstances, that peace and joy is always there. It may go up and down because of your circumstances, but to be secure in who you are, not that you're great or bad or whatever, but that God has given you this life, however many years, and you just are thankful. If you're in a state of thankfulness, and for me recently, just in my own life in the last couple of weeks, been thinking about this a lot, that if God does exist and he has a plan for my life, and I'm thankful for whatever it is, how bad can it be? You know, I mean, people are going to die. I'm going to die. My dog, who's upstairs right now, who's been amazing for this whole time, is going to pass away. It's just the natural thing. The planet isn't miraculously going to start becoming better. Everything is, I mean, you should be conscious of throwing your garbage away. You should do the things you got to do. You should love your neighbor. But eventually things are built to go. That's not a reason to be mad at God. That's what God told us is going to happen. So being thankful in the middle of that and being grateful, you can't really be too bummed about with whatever you're dealt, you know? I mean, I could smash my car right there and be all ticked off about it and stuff, but I'm really trying to have that default of just being, you know. So to answer your question, I'm not super serious in my life about things because I can't take myself too seriously because I know what a goofball I am, but I can try to be good to those around me, make it better, which makes it better for me. Forgive those who've messed me up because it's better for me, like that guy and like your story. I think under those circumstances, and just keeping it light and keeping a sense of humor and doing jokes and having friends that understand you and won't let you get away with not being cool, you know? If you have that, I mean, what more do you need? You know?
Half full, not half empty, right?
Half full, not half empty.
There you go.
A little bit more full.
Yeah, man. Ideally, absolutely. I'm going to say goodbye, but listen, man, thank you again. I really appreciate it. I hope we get to connect when you're down here, and we'll stay in touch.
Well, God bless you, and God bless America, and all you people out there listening. Thanks for listening to my blabbering for however long this has
been. It's been great. Hang on, let me wrap up. Everybody, and thank you. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks to Matt Bissonette very much. There he goes, the ubiquitous toenails. They're always there. Support, you know, Matt, whatever Matt's doing, come check him out on Elton's gigs. And hopefully he's got something going on with his brother Greg and Andy Timmons, who was on this show a long time ago, called the Redcoats. So stay tuned for that. And when the Redcoats drop something, hopefully they'll come back on here and we'll be able to talk about it and turn everybody on to it. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. There you go, brother. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out.